What's up, potheads and political junkies? You're watching Cannabis Culture News Live. My name's Jeremiah Vandermeer, editor of Cannabis Culture and Pod TV. No, that's not the stereo back there. You got to tell the guys at the front about that one. That's all good. Just got the tunes pumping in the lounge right here at 307 West Hastings Street in downtown Vancouver. If you guys are in the neighborhood, come in and see us while we're doing the show. It's going to be quite a show this time. We got a big hash show, concentrates, extracts.
A little bit of reggae in the background.
That's right. We got Damian Marley jam rocking in the background.
We got D for 20K here coming down from PG, who's like, well, he's killing it when it comes to dry sift.
Awesome. That's
fantastic.
How you doing,
guys? How you doing?
We're going to hit that, too, on the show here. Yeah, man, it's great to have you on the show.
Absolutely.
I wanted to kind of cover all of the different elements of extraction and concentrates because, of course, nowadays, that's where everything's going in the pot movement. The dabbing craze is huge. People want to use their dabbing rigs, and they want to... I mean, hash has been around for a long time, and we're going to have a couple big names on the show, too.
Bubbleman's on his way down. Mark?
Going to be in the house, that's right. And
BudderKing.
You guys know him as the bubble hash maker, inventor of the bubble bags. BudderKing's coming on the show.
BudderKing sitting over here.
I know,
and he's
another
like,
legend, BudderKing here in
He's
the
getting
house.
some pretty good shout-outs on Hash Church there last week.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yes. So we're going to talk about the entire history of how these things were invented, where did butter come from, where is this whole, where did shatter come from, all this kind of stuff, and what really are the differences between these things and how they're made. So let's just make sure the chat is all good.
And
how
of
you
course,
guys doing,
now
chatters?
the best one now is the static dry sift that really came into play.
I think he should be hitting this diesel right now.
Is that what's happening?
Yeah, you should load him up and let him try some of that dry sift.
Chatters, hopefully everything looks and sounds good out there.
As I'm hitting up Jeremiah with this, D's hitting me up with his little rig here that he just picked up. So I'm super stoked about this. We got to get the show going off right, don't we? We got to be hitting some full mount.
Looks and sounds good out there. I'm just going to tweak a little knob here.
So now this actually here, this is some new dry sift that actually, well, Darren is not new. This is some stuff he's been doing for a little bit.
Right.
And this is this, yours is ready to go, dude.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, we just loaded that piece in there for you.
Moses.
That is going to annihilate. Yeah.
Let's get this other dab cam going here. Sorry, this is the hash cam at the moment.
Give her John.
Oh, we'll get you going.
Get that in there.
Cut.
Just sizzles.
Dabbing
Just
hammering it. So, Johnny, what did you just do there? Explain to anybody out there in Pot TV land who doesn't understand this whole dabbing thing.
Okay, so I just vaporized about 1 million heads. So it was really easy. This is in particular, this dry sift is done with a static technique. Actually, it's a DVD technique that
parchment paper technique.
Yeah, he's the guy to talk about it.
Right. Okay. So now this is dry sift. You said
this is full melt dry sift. So this is full melt dry sift. Some of the.
But I'm looking at it though in a little pad. It's like in a piece of hash. It's like here. Let's get switch back here. Let's take a look at it.
You can finger press it. Basically, it's in a sandy powder form in these containers here. But from taking it from up north down south into this humid climate, it's made it solid up pretty good. So it's easy. Okay. It's finger pressable. You don't have to put heat to it. Nothing. It just presses into one piece and that's it.
Right.
And
so of course, really, I mean, if we're talking about hash, we're just talking about trichomes that fall off the plant and basically get mashed up into stuff you can smoke. Now, there's ways of really extracting those trichomes from the plant in cleaner ways and other ways and removing the plant material from even the trichomes. The trichomes have a wax on them, so even when you get the little mushroom-headed trichomes off the plant, they still have some material in them that you need to get out sometimes. Some people do.
Yes.
Explain what the idea of full melt is.
Well, your wax and your fat lipid is part of your THC molecule, your head. So you're not going to get rid of that unless you're stripping it with solvents and stuff like that. And that's more
or
BudderKing.
about minus 50 degrees, minus 80.
You separate. You're taking out fat lipids and your waxes and leaving your THC. So there's a lot of that I haven't done.
Right.
But my specialty is the dry sift. I can make the old school ISO oil, shatter it up, make it glassy and whip it up and stuff like that. I've done that a long time ago, but
right.
I haven't done that for years. And my dry sifting is what I've been doing. So
Right.
it's you're not taking any of the wax or the fat out of the THC. You're just taking the molecule, the head, and that's it. That's all you want.
Exactly.
No pistillate stalks, no hairs, nothing. Right?
Now, you actually have videos available online about how you do this.
Yes,
but
I
can
have
you sort of just
instructional.
walk us through what that process is, sort of a
Absolutely.
brief process?
Okay, well, we got 4 screens set up. And, you know, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but when Bubbleman gets here, those are his screens, so he can tell us that. But
Those screen sizes, guys, just so you know, are 60, 90, 110, and 200. And that's
and what's
also...
the other side? Yeah, the other side of 200.
Oh, and then there is a 304.
And these numbers that you're spitting out are micron
Our
levels.
micron level. So what I did is I went on the Cannabis Culture forum this morning, and under hash and drying and harvesting, I put a link in there on... what do I call it? I had diamonds and gold from bags of swag, dry sift static. In there will be a link to 4 different videos on how this has just now progressed. And it started from one gentleman that watched D was carding, and it was sticking to his iTunes card. And
Yeah, well, the whole process that I put through it is like you can have your pile of sift, your keef there, and you can do your parchment paper and go from there. But you're just getting one grade, and that's it. But I like to take it to the maximum grade if I could. And I'll take my bud. I don't use the leaf anymore, but unless I have it available, or we make it into medibles or whatever, right? I like those, but I like to take the bud, bone dry it, let it cure up, so that the resin heads, if you can look at it under a microscope, will almost look like little raisins, like from grape form to raisin form, right? Nice and cured.
Right.
Then I'll take it through that process, break it up over the screen. You got your first screening. I'll mash it up. I'll rough it up, take that screen off, and then you got your keef on that level. And there's a trick that this guy, Mark showed me this, Bubbleman, where you got your 4 screens, and you once you get to that grade, you give the screen a little tap on each corner, nice and gently, then lift everything off to the bottom screen, and you get really nice, clean heads right off the bat. Maybe a nice, couple of grams, just to smoke while you're
Just
making
drops
the
them
rest
off.
of it.
Right, for yourself.
And you
a
can
nice
just take
little-
that and just it just turns to grease. It's pure full melt right off the bat. You don't even need to clean, because if you clean it up, you're gonna waste more heads than cleaning.
Right. And full melt essentially just means that once it's done, there's not much left, kind of thing, right?
That's right. There's
Yeah.
not much contaminant left.
Right.
So that when it folds, if there is contaminant in there, it won't melt like that. It'll sizzle or it'll wafer, but it
Yeah,
won't melt.
switch.
And
Yeah.
then the other screens, you got your four set of big screens, your large ones. You scrape up all the keef from that grade, each grade down.
Yeah.
And I put them on top of the 70 large screen, as I show in my videos. And I use the 4-screen wood set, and I take it through that whole process so that I clean each level down to from 120, 110, and to 70. So that basically, then I take that and I put the parchment paper trick to use, and I clean up those grades of heads, so all different sizes.
that's awesome. We're trying to do this thing here.
Oh, I'm watching.
Should I put the...
The problem is it's just I need to have my pipe cleaned, and I should have put a better screen on there. But basically, 99.9% heads gives you full melt,
gonna have
clear
a rip.
dome, beautiful.
I'm having a rip.
Are you having a rip?
Fuck this.
Everybody's having a rip.
That was awesome.
So what was that flavor like?
Wow, very tasty stuff.
And it's really
it's
just
very
so
melty.
easy to
Super
obtain.
melty.
Like what I did, I just went around the house yesterday morning. I grabbed every bag had a gram or two in it, and I threw it all into a screen, crushed it over the screen, grabbed it, put it over the 60 and the 90, grabbed a DVD, wrapped it in parchment paper, and with about a half an hour, 40 minutes, well, this is what I'm picking up right here.
Yeah, okay. Get this
And I probably
hash cam.
smoked almost half of it already. But I did a video on this, and it was just a little quick little clean. And basically, I was able to get all of this beautiful resin that I was just, it's just like old weed that was sitting around. Some of it was been sitting around for 6-7 months. And this melts beautifully. This is just like, wow, you would never think you'd be able to get that kind of medicine or any kind of gland heads out of the type of weed that I had. So it was really good just to show people that, and at the same time, what I got out of it was just epic. And it was like diamonds and gold from swag that was just sitting around.
So, John, you've been an advocate this process for a while. You come on the show a lot. You're essentially co-host of the show, and you always bring your amazing hash on the show.
Yes.
But why? So what is this process? Why do this instead of just smoke the plant?
Well, for one, like Mark said, like Bubbleman said, it's really when it came down to it. And like for me, I've always really liked the extraction. So even before that, I was always talking about how we're just harvesting the gland heads, and I would do that until Mark showed me how to clean it. Before that, of course, I was smoking butter from what Steve had, because that was just the epic. That's what helped me get through what I was dealing with because of my fall and stuff like that. So I found that smoking a joint like Remo, you smoke like 40 grams a day. You know, it takes a lot of time to sit there and roll that amount of weed too.
Hard on the lungs as well.
Hard on the lungs, everything. So
when I'd go to bed, I'd cough all night and wake up my wife and all that. As soon as I started smoking the dry sift steady and no joints, I don't cough at night. I don't wake myself up. It's just better on my lungs. I find it better. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I just found out the different ways. So before, when I was getting into the concentrates and I was smoking the butter and stuff like that, so that was great for me because I got like an everything pizzas, like Mark would say. But as I was really realizing with the gland heads and I started doing the bubble hash and I had the 8-bag system, I was able to take a look at how every different bag, the 73, the 90, the 120, and I've showed it to you, I've showed it to everybody, the different smells, the different terpenes, or just the different aromas that came from that. And of course, the different type of high. And I always said like the 73 and the 90 helped me with my vibrations and stuff like that. So, I mean, from there I went into the dry sift, and then the taking the screens and then carting that and then separating different screen sizes, which I actually have in my bag, all in different parchment papers, and then taking a better look at how the different microns were helping me and stuff like that, and then of course sharing it with everybody else. And a lot of people are realizing that, yeah, hey, this is working for my pain, or this is exactly what I am looking for. So it's really preference. I mean, for me, I don't want to put any kind of like butane or any type of thing in my body. So I like to do the bubble hash. Or for me, I prefer dry sift because I like the flavor, right? And we talk about losing those water-soluble terpenes in the water. And then when it comes to doing more of the shatters and butters, there's different, like with the propanes and the butanes, they pull out different terpenes that enlighten. So and then it comes into terpenes now.
Right.
So there's just so much more to learn about this plant that we're realizing it's unreal.
Really what it is then is a couple things. It's one, it's a stronger substance. You don't need to smoke as much, and you don't need all that plant material in gumming up your lungs and everything else. Two, it's just a cleaner product in general. You can get these amazing flavors from it, all these kinds of things, and you don't have a lot of that. Like you said, it's the pizza box analogy. You're removing the pizza out of the box. When you're smoking the plant material by itself, it's kind of like you're smoking
eating the pizza in the box.
Eating the box too. But some people, I guess,
that's
think
what Mark
that
says all the time. That's why we laugh, and that's why I say it all the time. It just makes sense. It's like when they bring a pizza to your door, you open up and you take the pizza out. That's an everything pizza, and that's great. People love an everything pizza.
Yeah.
But you take it out of the box, right?
Right, exactly. And sometimes, yeah, exactly. But I guess even a better analogy is sometimes you're able to take only pieces of the pepperoni out or other things. Every process may take different things.
60, 90, 120.
Right. And so, yeah, the whole micron idea, that's just getting down to a cleaner product, essentially, or a product where you're isolating certain parts, right?
I wouldn't say a cleaner product because we're just scratching the surface. And like we're talking about, we're looking at the different gland heads or the different micron levels and how they affect us. So we're finding like the 73 has a different effect. But if you put them all together, that's going to give you another effect. So, I mean, that's what I'm seeing personally. And I know there's more research being done on this, 100%. But I mean, we're just, 100%. So when you start looking at it, like myself, because I am researching it for my own stuff, I see how it affects me.
Right.
And
there's different kinds of trichomes on the plant, actually, right? There's
100%.
3 different.
You did an article with Bubbleman, right?
Yeah,
and that was looking inside the trichome, I think. Inside the trichome.
Inside the trichome is the name of the article. One of the most popular ones on
and it's I refer to people like crazy. And in there, that's just your best way of looking at it, decapitated stuff. Mark knows it all. When he gets here, he can explain it. But I mean,
yeah, for anybody who hasn't really looked and analyzed what a trichome is, you should check that out. CannabisCulture.com, inside the trichome. Just Google it. It basically shows how these little mushroom-type heads grow all over the plant, and that's really where the active ingredient is contained. Really, there's no other...
That is where it is.
Yeah, there's nothing else anywhere else in the plant. I mean, things are making their way up to the plant that become the active ingredient but they're not quite active until they get into the trichome.
See, that's the other thing too, right? So now that I've dry sifted all my material at home and I have material left over and I've done macro filming of it, there's still stuff left in there. Where that's when we come into doing a solvent extract like what BudderKing's doing and stuff, you're able to get all of those cannabinoids out. So there you get different, like the ratio with his LHO, and I already know that with doing bubble hash, we're still leaving stuff behind. So that's where the solvent extracts are actually stripping everything, and that's where we get into the different. I'm learning that myself. I don't know it that much, but the more research I do on it, I take a look at how the different terpenes are pulled with the different solvents, and then they're using vac ovens. And I mean, I know Steve isn't using butane, so I mean, everybody's got different ways of doing things. Which,
yeah, we'll be bringing BudderKing on very shortly here to talk about the BHO extraction process.
Because it's just more solvent extracts. It's all an extract. It's all that's, according to Health Canada, illegal, except for here in BC. But I mean, at the same time, it's truly what the medicine is. It's what we're all after.
Right. Now let's quickly just talk about what you noted there about the laws here in Canada related to extracting hash from the plant. Of course, not last week, but the week before. Last week we didn't have a show. I was sick. But the week before that, we had Ted Smith and Owen Smith on the show right here in studio, and so we did talk a little bit about what's happening with our laws and extracting things from the plant and baking it into goodies and things like that. But right now it's kind of in a gray area where they've had some success in the courts, but the government of Canada at one time really said that you would have even more mandatory minimums or higher penalties for extracting the actual trichomes themselves. So even when you ground your weed and the trichomes would just fall off into the bottom of your grinder, that was actually more illegal than just possessing the pod.
The way it was always said in the law is that you can shake the tree as much as you want to get the apples off of it. You just can't use anything to take the apples off the tree. Right. So when you're grinding up your weed, what you're finding underneath is just byproduct of you making your medicine, but you couldn't actually take the weed and you could bounce it because you're shaking the tree, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
so it's a weird law. So it's really where hash really came into play, is because that's where I started talking back out. That was in Toronto, and that's where I was talking with Pedro and Marco Renda and stuff. Is well, you can shake the tree, dry sift. I mean, that's what, because I had a 25 gram a day license back in the day, and it's because I was using just the pure medicine for my pain.
Yeah, well, and I mean, of course, this whole concept of hash, it's not like this is some new thing that's just been invented.
Hell
hash,
no.
of course, goes back. I mean, when you look at what people were in ancient times, a lot of times they were only smoking hash, or they were, in a lot of places, this is the substance they were using. There's a famous book called The Hashish Eaters as well. I mean, there's a long culture of hash in all different cultures around the world of this itself. And there's also countries that produce hash heavily rather than
but
producing
look what you
marijuana
can do
itself.
with Epic Hash. You can mold it. We take it and we make anything we want out of it. Like I can flatten it out. Darren's making big, huge patties over here. Oh, yeah. I mean, if we get some parchment people that'll heat on this, we'll make this see-through so you can look through it, right? Like, that's the best thing when you get into just full melt hash that's properly cured. You can basically, in the hot sun, it's not going to melt. This is what we're looking for. This is what we're really looking for.
It's a pretty easy way to see how pure your product is as well when you flatten it out like that. And you can look at it through the light and you can see the contaminant or not, right? It's pretty easy.
Right, because it has a translucency to it.
I feel a 420 coming on. What time is it?
Oh, it's 4:20 right now. Whoa! On the dot.
See? I knew something was going on. I just felt it. What's going on? Lighter.
Your 420 senses tingling.
John.
Sorry.
You're like the weed Spider-Man. And also because he can climb up the wall, you should watch him do that. Does a backflip. It's crazy.
Still, like Steve already had his lit. He's like 420.
Woo.
Maybe it's 421.
To everybody in the lounge.
Happy 421 now.
Happy 421, loungers.
Yeah.
I'm a minute late.
It's always 420 somewhere.
It's always 420, even at 421.
It's 420 somewhere.
So now, of course, I mean, in modern, this last 5 years, this concept of dabbing has really taken off and blown up. And it's because, I mean, there has been a focus on these concentrates. And glassblowers love it because it's really good business for them. They're making all these cool new creations and rigs and stuff. But I remember before there was ever any concept of dabbing, hot knifing hash long ago. Like back when I was like 15 and 16 years old.
It was hash,
sticking my
steady.
hot knives in
I went to school with the big print on my lip. Yeah. I think I got guys out here that smiling, laughing because
burnt their lip.
Everybody was like, on your
I've seen some
chin, on
bad
your lip.
burns.
I've seen some
Oh,
really
bad
bad ones.
burns,
So,
yeah.
I mean, it's not like, and then from there, when I was getting the butter, from BudderKing, that I was putting it on charcoal, fast burning charcoal. That was, and then
Yes.
we were having little lighters, and it was the same thing. And then just someone started putting little rigs to kind of go underneath of these bongs, and little contraptions started being erupted from around that, and then it slowly got into a whole
Always
new
a progression.
It was a progression, and it really came
Always.
down to. I think it was the butter that kind of progressed into the dabbing and the showers.
Yes, well, I remember a lighter that was made with a little metal element on it. You flip it over.
That was
Yeah.
the start
The
of
torch
it.
would
That
light
was the
up,
start
and
of
that
it. You
was
get the
for
little
butter
torch from
itself.
right.
It was
Home
made for
Depot
that.
and put a little screw
Little
in the
dent
bottom
it
and
so
bend
it wouldn't run off the
Oh,
side.
yeah.
And it
I
just
smoked one of those
hit
not too
that.
on like I think it was
I
Greg's
still
show
got
on
a couple
Wednesday.
of those. They're gonna be worth money one day.
I know there should be one in
They
the
go Pez
audience.
dispensers.
Yeah, yeah, and there I remember some of those swings that first came, or the Tide.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The tie plate swings that led to the bowl until now. What D-Nail's doing with titanium, with quartz, with silicon. There's all kinds of ways, and we're looking like at that.
Yeah,
well,
now
that's
there's a
another thing
million.
that I was trying to
Yeah,
get.
the nails are, and things like the sublimator are probably the best.
How
way
many
to do it.
nails are out there now? Like what kinds?
Well, what we got? We got quartz. We got titanium. We have silicone. Ceramic, yeah. So we got ceramic, and then you just got your basic glass. So I mean, those are, and the best
Who can you
tasting.
get those? Who can you get the
Well, I don't think
fajitas
this.
from and stuff?
I don't know. Cannabis Culture downstairs. I know they have
Yeah,
some.
we sell all kinds of stuff down at Cannabis Culture. If you're looking
But
for
one
this
thing
kind
I
of equipment.
haven't seen out there are the new silicone
Ones from D-Nail.
from Dino. That taste. We were
smoked
showing
on that
Jody.
last night.
We started showing Jody and Mark last
Killer.
night the different flavors between the quartz and the silicone. And the silicone is just so much more flavorful. It's
Really?
amazing.
And
Oh yeah.
Why is that?
It's just a hard. I think the hardness was at 9. Once again, that's
Well, when you look at the when you're using the quartz and you're using that silicone, the differences are what Mark explained to me today, because we were talking about it earlier in one of his videos we made earlier. And it's you're looking at the resin, the reclaim that comes through the quartz and the reclaim that comes through the silicone. There's very little compared to from the quartz. So it gives you a different combustion altogether.
Right.
And when he gets here, he can explain that a lot better than I can, but that's the gist of what the story he gave me.
That's totally
And,
fascinating. Though, for
it,
sure.
it is a noticeable different hit, and it tastes killer. It's just tastier. Like if you're hitting that for a week and you go back to quartz, it's going to taste like going back to a metal nail or something.
Huh.
You know, like
Yeah.
it's going to be different.
Yeah, no, you can definitely. I mean, I just know from going back and forth from glass, metal, and things like that that you do get a different.
I think
taste.
you should have one of the OG and the diesel in there for.
I'm still a little sick, so my throat is kind of like messed up. But I'll try not to cough too heavily on you guys.
No, not that I was hitting it because I got a lighter. It was like the wind was pulling it away. It was weird. It was like,
So-
I don't want butane.
I want to bring BudderKing
Yeah.
here, and we should talk about this whole concept of butter, because we've been talking mostly about the dry sift and that kind of stuff here, but yeah, there's a whole another realm
We just started talking about
extractions.
dry sift.
Yeah.
But I mean, really,
We're
like
gonna
we
end
were
up
talking
about dry
about.
sift in the end as well.
It's all going to be about the sift, and it's all going to be about concentrates today.
It is all about. It's a candid conversation.
Are you
on
coming up to
cannabis
do a rip here?
concentrates.
We're
BudderKing?
going to
I'll
hit
jump out here and
I think
take my spot and have
Yeah.
a rip.
I think
Well,
you
guys
should
can
hit him
slide
up.
down.
You hit him up. I'll slide down. I'll move over and give him a rip.
There's enough space on the couch.
Yeah.
You guys can snuggle in, I guess, as long as that's okay with BudderKing himself.
Oh yeah, we're.
Doesn't mind elbowing you over a little bit here. Actually, you might have to come in that side, so you guys might squeeze out there for me. Yeah. So, yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, and maybe you know what? I'll get maybe you two to trade. Would you guys mind trading so then I can do a little interview and straight next to you? Yeah. Interview seat. How you doing, man? Thanks for coming on the show here, my friend. Is this, wait, your first time on the show? I can't remember if it is or not. I seem to forget things quite easily. First time on the show, so wow, it's an honor to have you on. Yeah, I wasn't sure if maybe you had come and sat on and puffed down with us once or twice or something, but that tends to happen with anybody drifting through.
First time.
So very cool to have you on, my friend. Now, of course, it's all in the name. You're known for this substance called butter. And, I mean, you're quite huge in the history of this whole thing. Can you explain to us what this is and how you got involved in it? Give us the BudderKing story, essentially. And here, I'll get you to talk.
Well, I guess in the 90s, I came up with butter in the 90s, the mid-90s. And, there was nothing out, but Bubbleman was making his bags and doing hash at the end of the 90s. And there was people smoking pot, but the odd batch of honey oil, but there was really nothing else that, So we always wanted to get a little higher. So, we enlisted this one gentleman to make with our scraps. Being a big grower, I had lots of bags of extra scraps. And I had a friend of mine make it into really good oil. Well, Lord behold, it turned into shatter, glass. We called it glass. So we had this glass, and we had it for, a year or more. And I had a friend that had the keen knowledge to take a piece of that glass and put it on the windowsill in the sun. It melted, and he grabbed a tool and he started turning it. And we all noticed it was going lighter and lighter in the sun. So we put it back up there, and it hardened up. And the difference was, we smoked this glass forever, but every time you took a poke at it, it would just flick all over the floor and land everywhere, and it was just a bitch to not very pliable.
Right.
So the invention of a pliable product, and Lord behold, it tasted better too. Mm-hmm. So it didn't
and this
take
was just by putting it in the sunlight, essentially.
Yes, yeah, and melting it, and then giving it a stir and a stir and a stir and a stir, and watching the what unfolded in front of us. Mm-hmm. We didn't really realize what we were doing, but it clicked soon after, for me, anyways.
Well, and can you explain exactly what is happening there? What is it that makes the sunlight change it? Do we know?
Well, I think you're introducing, you're basically whipping it. You're introducing oxygenation. And oxidation occurs when you leave it out and it reverts back to its origin. Mm-hmm. So introducing oxygen, whipping it, definitely
changes the texture and the consistency of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no chemist, but I am a good businessman.
Smart man, and so.
Yeah. But I know, it took off from there, and we knew that having pliability was better than having the sticky mess. Mm-hmm. So. And then, fast forward to the opportunity to bring it out to the world was in 2003 when Don Briere opened Dakine on Commercial Drive.
That's right.
So before the doors opened, Don was renovating, and I approached him and said, Don, I can make this, really make a difference here. And it really helped Dakine take off, and it really helped the explosion take place. The people have never had anything like that. And of course, going to 420 and having endless lineups of free butter hoots for many years dating back. And then of course, Don got busted, and people needed their butter still. So it's just been up and away. And now you see every stretch of the earth, people know about butter. And more people are turning to extracts rather than cannabis, smoking it. But I tell you this, I smoked nothing but butter for years and no cannabis, buds. And I went back because there's no substitution for buds or even hash for that matter. You need it all, eating it. And it's just part of the makeup, part of my medicine cabinet. Right. I definitely.
Right now, so this process using solvents essentially to remove the active ingredients. Some people say that this leaves a residue there, and there's lots of talk about this. What are your thoughts on that whole side of things? How much is actually left there? Is there a danger to smoking butter in any way?
Well, before I came public, Don and Carol insisted that we take it to a laboratory. Not just one lab, but two labs. and have it tested for purity, potency, and the microbiology. It came back absolutely clean. They did every test and a wide screen of all toxins. There was no alcohol, anything left in it. And I have those test results. And not just that, but we've had several labs since do their independent tests, and they still conclusively find that it's clean. So people that say there's residue and all this stuff, I don't know where they're coming from. They need to look and check out my results, or at least check their own chemistry and their own knowledge.
Are those results, when you say check them out, have you published them somewhere or something?
I've consistently put them online, and I have them at my store, and I've showed them to many people.
Very cool. And so, just so we tell the people where your store is, where is your store?
We have 2 locations, one next to St. Paul's, and we have one on actually 1176 Thurlow, next to St. Paul's, and we have one on Commercial Drive, 2137 Commercial Drive.
Fantastic. And people can find that stuff online as well, right?
I believe there's, several outlets online, yes.
I mean, your website.
Definitely BudderKing quality, yeah. Ask for BudderKing. So many imitators, oh my goodness. It's just got out of control.
Well, I was going to say that. So now once this happened and you started, I mean, you said that it kind of platformed because you managed to get it in some dispensaries and things like that. But how did this, I mean, this got picked up not just here in Vancouver, but all over the world. I mean, this has become a huge thing now.
I met a lot of people from California when I came public, and they ran back as fast as they could. And they've since made several people down there very rich.
I bet.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, because you see the butter everywhere. It's, every dispensary I go into, there's butter, and it's known all over the place. I mean, there's articles in High Times magazine and everywhere else.
Yeah, I did 3 issues of High Times last year. Yep. Definitely, I stick to my quality, and people know that, and they know that they can trust the BudderKing quality.
Well, that's very cool, my friend. So now, you said that in your cabinet you have other things. Are there other types of extracts that have you expanded on the butter concept outside of that and done any other kind of alchemical magic with your products?
You can imagine having access to the powerful concentrate before anyone else. We definitely had people experimenting with different medications. We've basically pioneered several instant remedies, and using butter in the cleanest form of butter drops, cobra oil we call it. We have mists, we have gels. We created the gel. Ever since then, you see everyone and their dog has a gel. Yep. But I want to say that we were sitting around one day, and we had an idea that we wanted to trademark the name, so we originally called it Butter with T's, but having gone to the copyright office, they said, there's no way you can do this. So my brother came back right away, and he said, we have to change this up. And he recommended we do Butter with 2 D's. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
You didn't like it?
No, so but it's since stuck and took off. And
because it's the play on bud.
Yeah, it's far better than me. I'm just the caretaker. But you can see, all I ever wanted to do was to introduce people to it and everyone make their own. But a funny story, I have a brother-in-law, and he's seen the success I got, so he figured, because I wouldn't show him how to make it, that he'd come up with his own brand, and he started using butane. So he invented the butter made with butane, and it took off because it's much easier to make than butter, obviously. And a lot of people make it with butane, and a lot of people say there's no harm in butane. But I can tell you that when I came public with butter, I had a gentleman that holds the patent in Switzerland for oil extraction, one of the only countries that do hold patents for such things. He said, Steve, if you're making it with butane, I can tell you right now that you're going to get lesions on your brain. And funny thing, it happened to my brother-in-law who introduced butane to the world. Whoa. He got lesions on his brain.
Wow.
And we thought it was cancer at first, and it turned out it wasn't. But several people since have been making it with butane because it's easier. I mean, you can take stuff you sweep off the floor, you run it through a honeybee extractor, and bing, you got some goo. You know, I don't agree with that. And I don't know anyone who makes butter with alcohol like I do. I mean, but I know everyone and their dog makes it with butane. And they seem to think it's butter, but it's not.
Right, no, yeah.
You know, I invented
really
butter.
popular.
I invented the word. I know what butter is. And people who make butane jelly hash, that is not butter. But thank you, you've made me famous.
Wow, well, now, you said that you've helped other people make this stuff. Is there a recipe that you've published online that people can go for the definitive way to make this, or is that a trade secret?
I published it basically in High Times. I showed High Times how to make it.
Yeah.
I have a problem with my method. It's flammable, it's viable, and it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And any fool that wants to make it, and there seems to be a lot that do, will catch themselves in flames and possibly die. And that's one thing I don't want.
Right.
So
And
I haven't.
and a few people have. I mean, we see stories, people
Well,
blowing their living rooms up. And
Yeah, and
he did
those
it.
are all butane disasters.
Yeah.
You know, very few. I've made thousands of batches of butter with alcohol and not a single issue. And, you know, I know people that will come in and they'll make butter and they won't have any ventilation on or anything, and their element will be on red hot, and they'll wonder why they have a fire.
Yeah. He's taking a photo. Thanks, Johnny. Yeah, well, and I know, you know, we've published articles in Cannabis Culture about this before, and whenever we talk about extracting and the dangers, you know, we can refer to these things. There are people, like literally Cookie in the building here blew himself up. He's lucky to be alive after launching himself out of his living room or whatever. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's there's a serious danger when you're using certain types of solvents, you know, because they are very flammable.
Oh,
Now, and
definitely.
alcohol is also, of course, flammable in some ways, but you haven't
Yeah.
had any problems.
Well, thank God it isn't like gasoline, that it's combustible that way, but it is flammable. And, yeah, you know, in the hands of the majority of people, I think it's an issue. That's why I don't really show a lot of people, but maybe the one day there will be the proper time I will do that. But it's no secret. I mean, it's basically, it's out there. There's enough people showing videos that are doing it properly. Mm-hmm. It's just making oil, really fine, clean oil, the best possible, and then taking it and whipping it up, baking it,
Yeah.
you know, and doing your science. It's definitely not for someone who isn't methodical.
Right. Yeah, well, and it's a very cool thing because it kind of has launched this whole, I mean, it seems to be that there's been a combination of things that did it. You know, Bubbleman, who's in the building now, had a big effect on
Hey, all right,
hash,
Mark.
another hash legend. But yeah, I mean, we've seen really this explosion, and it's all over the damn planet now. It's huge.
Yeah, they dabs and, you know, butter is the future. What can I say? You know, it's everywhere, it's taking off, and it speaks for itself. I mean, people want what they want, and they want the best.
Yep. Yeah, and exactly. It's a stronger, cleaner product, and it makes perfect sense. So, man, that's very cool. I really appreciate you coming on and telling us the story and stuff.
Thanks for having
That's
me.
the first time I've heard it. So,
Yeah, well, you know, I did an article in Cannabis Culture in 2004.
that's right.
And I believe it was my best article ever, and
It's a popular one.
it's amazing, you know, how it launched. But you know, it's amazing how something just takes off. It's like a virus, you know. And you know, I'm just an ordinary guy that had you know, the common sense to come up with a name for it, and you know, come out and show people, because I knew you know, something good. And I think history has shown that I was right.
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, it couldn't have shown it more, really.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all your work on it, my friend. And so, if people want to find you, they can come down to one of your dispensaries. Are you there? Are you working?
Yeah,
on
well,
this?
I'm a pretty private person, you know, but I'm usually at my place, or you know, they can always send me an email. I get quite a few of those still.
Cool. Do you want to give any of your website addresses or anything?
The BudderKing at hotmail.com.
That's where you
I'm
can contact
pretty
BudderKing?
old school. You know, I don't even. I just learned how to text.
So there's no BudderKing website then itself based on that?
You know, there is lots of them out there, but they're definitely fakes and not mine. And I do own the name BudderKing, and definitely things are going to change.
Cool. Well, thank you.
But I'm working under the, definitely working below the surface.
Right, exactly. Well, things
consistently
are rapidly changing because of the legalities of things as well. So, you know, it might make it a little easier. All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Appreciate that, Steve, for sure. Very cool.
I do.
BudderKing, Steve. Butter. If you haven't tried it, give it a shot. It's amazing. That's really the first time that I ever was dabbing stuff was just butter. And we didn't talk about the whole concept of greening out, but oh, here we go. Got some nail action going. Yeah, if you smoke heavy concentrates, there is a danger of greening out. Have you ever greened out? Yeah. You do, yeah? Tell us here. Come here. Come sit over here. Tell us. Give us a green out story. Because of course I mean, when you're hitting this stuff, it's very strong. Sometimes it can be overwhelming for a person who isn't, you know, a chronic cannabis smoker. And, you know, even Mark Emery, who puffs all day long, has greened out several times.
Even if you're a chronic smoker, you can green out.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, earlier today, I almost greened out. I was out at Bubbleman's house, and we did a video, and we did quite a few rips back to back in a short period of time. More than, I wouldn't do that normally at home.
Right.
At all. And
peer pressure.
I was fucking peeled, man. It was all right. I had to have about 8 tacos across the street there, and you know.
I wonder what it really
show.
is. Is it maybe a lack of oxygen that's to the brain or something, or it's just too much THC? I don't know what it is. Or
can't be lack of oxygen. It's got to be just the THC. It's powerful.
It's taking it over.
Yeah. It's you mix some. You got the sativas, and when you got that pure sativa, and you get up for a rip, you're just like you want to get up,
overload,
and move around and shit, right? But
yeah, and then that's when you get a problem where you get dizzy and you're like, oh, you got to sit right back down.
Yeah.
Well, even Marius, who used to produce this show, one time greened out on the air and like fell over, knocked the camera over. He was done. Yeah, just like rung his bell. Ding. Yeah, so there are dangers to these concentrates, not just in extracting them, but also in smoking them. Yeah, and you know, it's funny, you don't really see a lot of that with cannabis itself. I mean, people green out on cannabis too, when you're hitting big bong rips and that kind of stuff. So that can happen, you know, through the bong.
Well, when I'm smoking my dry sift at home with guys that haven't smoked it yet, I like to take it easy on them, and I have some food there to munch on in case I see them I see what happens, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty aware of it, and it happens quite a bit for the first timers, right? They're just like,
totally,
holy shit.
Well, and because you can't really titrate when you are taking this big glob and throwing it on a nail or whatever.
Well, some of these guys are real cocky too, and they're like, "Oh, give me more." I'm like, no, we'll just do this for now, and then I do this all day. I smoke Kush back to back all day. Okay, here's another one.
Here you go.
And then they're like, they're hiding in the car, sending their buddy in the store to get munchies, right? It's awesome, man.
Yeah. No, it's fun. Well, it's like, it reminds me of just eating edibles even sometimes, you know.
That's where it's a fine line for me with that. If I eat the candies, the little ones that I get from Eden, those ones are like, I'm walking around and I'm kind of looking at the stars or the sky and the trees. I'm like, oh, it's so nice out here. Then I realize I'm stoned on these candies, right? But if I eat these cookies and these bigger dosed ones, I'm like, I get paranoid. And I'm not very comfortable with it, right?
No, it's the same with me too. It's like the candies I love, but when I eat a lot of the brownies and stuff, I do. It's an uncomfortable feeling. You start like getting worried about things.
I eat I make coconut oil with marijuana, and I make it out of bud. I decarboxylate it. I keep it at over 300 degrees and keep it there for a length of period of time, half an hour. People do it for longer, but I eat that every day, and that's just activating my endocannabinoid system and that sort of thing.
Totally. Now, this is something. This is great that you were talking about this, because this is something that is a big part of the extraction side of things. Is actually extracting the active ingredients and then using them to bake into products, rather than just smoking them or eating a big hunk of hash or something like the hashish eaters. Yeah, people eat it, and it has an effect on them that's very positive, and because people don't like to smoke cannabis, it makes it easier for them to consume it in a way that's maybe if somebody has lung cancer or something, smoking anything is going to be a problem. They're going to want to eat this stuff.
Absolutely.
So, there's some people who just can't smoke. I prefer smoking, like Useless Foot in the chat, or Useless Fool, sorry, I am wearing sunglasses, if you didn't notice, people out there. But yeah, I'm not huge on the edibles, although Med Mark comes on the show and gives me big bags of popcorn. And when I eat those, I just get, what usually happens to me is I can't talk anymore properly.
Yeah,
I fall asleep, essentially, just like pass right out.
I like to eat mine at night.
Ah, Mr. Opus 420, McMahon's in the house.
I like to eat mine at night.
You eat yours at night, yeah, because it puts you to sleep.
Yeah, it doesn't wreck my day. I got to do stuff.
Wow, what's happening?
He's on the crowd mic. Oh, I have a crowd cam here. Let's.
You have a
turn
crowd
that on.
cam?
I do have a crowd cam. Let's cut you on in here.
I've got
There
the
he
doctor's
is.
bag.
Uh-oh, wait a sec. You're not on the cam, though. Hold on. Now you're on the cam.
Hi, Pot TV.
Hi, Mick. There we go. So Mick didn't do his show this week, and I'm not sure, is he doing it next Monday?
It's tentative. I'll let you know soon.
Tentative. Okay, you're still moving is the issue here.
Yeah.
Issue. Okay, all right. Well, watch for...
As I've totally discombobulated your microphone stand.
Did you? That's okay. Yeah, so this whole baking concept, people have been doing that for many, many years. But, of course, people make a butter that they use in baking as well, which is an extraction process.
Yeah,
And,
I find the coconut oils, it's just a better product.
Right.
You
And
know.
the coconut oil is a way it has the fatty cells in it as well that
Yeah,
allow you
a
to...
coconut oil. It's claimed that there's more antitoxins, for your cold fighting and flu fighting germs and diseases in coconut oil than there is in mother's milk.
Right.
Out of the boob, right? So
Yeah.
that's a bold statement and a big claim, but that's what I've read in the research on what I've done with coconut oil, and I like the taste. It's better for you than butter.
Right.
It helps you in so many ways. It's good for your high blood pressure, good for cholesterol. It replaces it with the bad with the good.
Yeah. Well, and coconut oil, it's totally known as
I've got a lot of friends with
it on your hair, put it on your
IBS
body.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that suffer from sleep insomnia. They take this stuff and it works. It just works for them, and they like it. Whether I don't know how much of a placebo effect it could be when it's just consistently working. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah,
Gotta be doing
totally.
something
Well,
right.
exactly. And it's weird that the government would try and take these methods of making medicine away from people and make them more illegal. It just makes no sense. It's like it's not changing the product in a way that makes it... it makes it stronger in certain ways because you're concentrating.
They've
of
been
course.
killing us for years, man.
Yeah.
We don't even want to get on that subject.
No,
do we?
the
'Cause
politics
that's
is a
gonna
whole-
go right off.
I know. We
that.
usually talk about the politics on this show, but this time we're just leaving it mostly to the hash fun.
Oh, yeah,
So we should get Bubbleman up here. Yeah, Bubbleman is in the house
Yeah.
now. He's all bearded and everything, too.
Yeah. Yes, I am. As soon as Mark gets over here and
Yeah,
does his
yeah.
thing.
So now, of course, Bubbleman, people that watch Pod TV know Bubbleman for sure because he himself has been around for so long.
He's the one that showed me the bubble bags in the first place, and
Yeah.
then the dry sift screen, the tumble now, and then the dry sift screens. And we were talking about this earlier too, and everybody thought that the stuff underneath the 70 screen was the gold.
Right.
But it didn't really seem to impress me that much, or anybody really. So there was a gap in time that people didn't really know about the gold until more come out. Like it was 2 summers ago, I come down here and I met John B down here, and I met Mark down here, and they had this dry sift full melt. And anything time before that, I had the full melt bubble hash that he made, and we'd smoke that, and it just amazed me, right? So I'd come down and smoke that with him, and this time they had the dry sift, and I was like, what the fuck was that? I couldn't believe it, because I seen it just melt into liquid and then start bubbling in the bowl and go down. It was just like it melted better than the bubble hash.
Yeah.
It was so impressive, so tasty, and you know what? That was one of the times I kind of got up and around. I said, "Okay, I think I gotta go, man," because I was fucking breathing out a bit, right? Like pensing out a little bit, right? Just that was too much, right?
Strong stuff.
But and so I was like, how do I get that? And then Mark showed me a few of his videos, and I went down to his house, and he showed me a few things on his cards, and and she gave me a few lessons, and John gave me a few lessons too, because it was his stuff we smoked in the first place, and then I got the screens and I carded and I sifted for like almost a full month, and I'd text Mark and I'd show him a picture at like 3 a.m. or something, because I'd be up all night like a mad scientist trying to get this down. And he'd be like, I'd be like, see that? It melts nice. And he goes, well, no, it kind of it sizzles a bit. You need to clean it more, right? And I was just like, holy shit. I was if I had long hair, I would have been pulling it out, right? Like it was frustrating, and it took me a long time. And then when I got it, and I sent him the video, and I got that video. I'll post it up on my YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm. I'll share it on Pod TV as well.
Yeah, and he was just like, there it is, that's the melt. And I was just like, holy fuck, yeah. And I haven't looked back. You know how to do it. And then we stumbled across the parchment paper with the guy, Mies McCalman. It was his name on YouTube. And he had the parchment paper trick that I seen. And wow, that changed the game for me with the method that I explained earlier and everything like that. It just adding the parchment paper to the process instead of using the iTunes cards that I usually use.
Yeah,
was a big change.
And what's the actual difference then?
Okay, well, the iTunes card, there's plastic in it. There's an ABS plastic that creates a more positive charge than most other plastic cards. Yeah. So that's what attracts the heads. Like, I've got a list of stuff that it's going to be in a future video here right away, my next one. Okay. I've got a box of tools of polyethylenes, polyesters, plastics, all types of different things, from horsehair to glass to silicone to that all give different charges, positives and negatives. So I'm seeing what attracts most on the sift, but what attracts the most is the parchment paper. Right. And the difference between the iTunes cards and the paper is there's the ABS plastic in the card is what charges the iTunes card and gives it that charge to collect the nice heads on one side and negative and contaminant on the other. Now with the parchment paper, if you do it right and lightly enough, you leave all the contaminant behind, and you just attract the resin heads. And it's just, there's ways of doing it on different angles that you can get the heads to attract on more of the paper all the way around before you brush it off. And when you brush it off, you could probably brush off a good gram and a half of dry sift, pure heads right off the bat there at a time. Every time, man. Until you clean it right down to nothing. And the stuff you got at the end, you can use it for your medibles. You can put it in your coconut oil in there, because there's a lot of good resin heads in there still. I don't know why they don't come out, but they're just stubborn, I guess. Right? Whatever.
Well, that's cool. And so you said you were going to make a video about this
process? You bet. That's on my YouTube channel.
What's your YouTube channel?
D420K.
D420K, that's the one. YouTube.com/. Cool, man. Well, Mark Richardson.
We'll get Bubbleman over here.
Bubbleman is in the crowd here. Come on up here, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
I really appreciate everything.
Yeah, no, it's great information. Totally awesome stuff. Thanks for getting me high. That's some good shit. Yet. Yeah, still got more to do here. So Bubbleman has been a friend of mine for a long time. He was here long before I arrived at Cannabis Culture, and one of the first really cool people that I got to hang out with. Mr. Bubbleman. Give me one of these, brother. How you doing?
Yes, very good, very good.
Things are good.
Happy
Looking nice and bearded.
Yeah, I am kind of bearded, aren't I?
I like that.
You must like that.
Good, yeah.
You got your beard game on lock.
Pogonologist myself.
All right, so I figured we would have a little
You can take that mic out of there if you want.
I'm
so
gonna.
when you're done.
But I need both my hands right now, so I'm going to do the awkward lean.
That's all good. That's all good. We got your little device here.
Yes, just quickly give that a do.
Oh, yeah, the XLR there.
Push that on at the back. We got the mothership, the brand new Fab egg in the house.
Oh, baby. Yeah. That thing is very nice. Wow. Cool. It's a Fabergé egg.
Yes, it's funny because someone who knows nothing about pipes recently saw it, and they were like, that looks like a Fabergé egg.
It does.
It was pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, and those, of course, are known for being very classy, expensive, crazy. Not the kind of eggs you want to, like, crack at all.
Oh, my goodness, no. It happened to Brett Maverick recently. If you follow him on social media, he's a young kid that makes a bunch of oil and hash and stuff, and he's a fairly popular in the social media traction world, but he cracked his right in half on the top, and it was. I didn't even like waking up and looking at that.
No kidding. Well, anytime I see any kind of smashed glass products, I'm always like, oh no, somebody's friend.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Even if it isn't a multi-$1,000 piece, it still sucks, but it sucks extra for a multi-$1,000
I would say so.
Mothership.
Yeah, for sure. So, of course, I mean, most of the people that are watching probably know who you are, but I wanted to go over exactly this concept of bubble hash, how you got involved in really extracting the trichomes from the plant, and how you basically... When was the first time that you ever heard of a trichome? Do you remember?
You know, I'm going to say that it was sometime after 1994 or 5, after my first Cannabis Cup.
Yeah.
And I had met Rob Clark there. I did not meet the Skunk Man Sam that year, but I definitely smoked some of what was his with Rob.
Yeah.
And I remember Rob saying, if it don't bubble, it ain't worth the trouble. And then they had these old style Ruhr bongs, and he'd hit it on a screen, and then it would just literally half the rip would drip right through the screen, and then you saw, every time you took a rip, you saw half of your rip drip down the downstem.
Right.
And I just remember being like, what the fuck? Like, what is that? Like, it was just a whole other reality to me.
Totally.
I was in my 20s at the time.
You're used to puffing...
It got me thinking, though. It
bong
really,
or
like,
whatever.
that if it don't bubble, it ain't worth the trouble. You know, it was 4 years later that I would start bubble bags. And that, of course, quick story was I was helping the Compassion Club locally. I helped Hillary Black from the conception of the Compassion Club when it was ideas on a piece of paper on my living room floor, with her deciding whether or not she's going to go live with Todd McCormick in California and do that, or if she's going to stay in British Columbia. This is 95, 96,
right.
Or should I start a club? She starts the club. I start growing for her. Both Romulan, Joe, and myself were probably two of the first growers for the BC Compassion Club.
Right.
We used to supply her with, affordable, organic, well-grown cannabis. And that sort of led into several years, 96 to 98. I did that steadily. And then not only growing it, I would procure it through brokering, finding, herb throughout the city.
Right.
And one night I went through, I was taking pounds home, quite a few of them actually, almost 20 pounds and almost 10 grand cash. And I was taking it home because someone had driven their car through the Compassion Club and tried to steal their safe, which was this huge fucking safe that it took 3 big dudes to move.
Yeah.
But they had bent the door open, the front of the door open enough that it was releasing all the smell of the 15 pounds of Renee that was in the safe.
Oh, Jesus.
And so it just reeked, and it was kind of one of the first real, think about this is the 90s. The police show up. The car has smashed through the front of the club.
Jesus.
The safe is open and reeking and not where it belongs. It's been dragged quite a ways away from where it belongs.
Wow.
And so the police get there and they guard the safe until Hillary arrives. And they don't take anything and they don't press any charges to the club.
And they're sniffing the Renee the whole time.
Dude, they were so awesome. It was the real... Back in those days, you have to understand, the only people that were buying medical marijuana were terminally ill people. So a lot of the people at the club in those days are no longer here with us.
Right.
They were very, very sick people. So
No kidding.
I took this herb home because of that. I got busted at a roadblock. And that really led me into kind of my wife saying, hey, I think it's great what you're doing and everything, but is there a way you could do it without... getting arrested and going to jail.
No kidding.
So I was like, all right, I'll try to figure something out. And that was the year I had seen water hash bags here. There was a guy by the name of the Professor who worked at, I think it was WTI on 41st and Knight Street. Maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. And he had a couple of sets of these isolator bags, which were created in 1998. Now, to just do a side story, these bags were created based on a machine that Reinhard Delp had invented in 97, patented, brought to the Cannabis Cup that year, showed to Mila, who signed a contract and was like, okay, I'm going to do business with this machine. It's a great idea.
Right.
But
Yeah,
then
isolator.
Eldon and Mark Rose saw the machine and came up with the bag idea. Hey, 2 bags, nylon, screen bottoms, and a 5-gallon bucket. You got the same thing. It kind of got hijacked and turned into this bag idea.
Yeah.
I tried the bags, 3 batches, totally not impressed. On the 4th batch, I run some Breeder Steve Shishkaberry,
Yeah.
make this unbelievable melty quality hash, and I tell my wife, I'm going to go to Amsterdam and I'm going to figure out a way to be the Canadian guy for these isolator bags.
Yeah.
That didn't work out. The meeting didn't go as planned. We didn't really click. I came home slightly bummed. My wife said, why don't you make your own? And so at that point,
Genius.
I thought, well, if I could make them better and not, okay, the worst way to kind of be inspired by a product is to copy it and make it cheaper and shittier. That's
Yes.
just terrible fucking business. But to
Agreed.
make a product that you know is out there that you can make better and maybe a little bit more expensive for the end user, well, then I felt like that was good business. So I started down the road of creating my own bags. That was, 16 plus years ago now. We have since worked out a deal with Reinhard Delp and leased his patent because he really did get fucked over and out on all the bag sales that have occurred in the world since 1997.
Really?
Knowing that it's a fact that all the bags that have come since have been based on his machine. And he patented the machine and the modality of it doing it. So,
Right.
yeah, after 8 years in court, I felt that it was a pretty solid move to kind of just pay our dues with that. So we're now one of the 4 companies in the world that are leased for water extraction to sell bags legally.
Wow. Well, very cool.
Yeah.
And successful because they've really caught on and actually blown up. Everybody knows bubble bags.
Well,
People
you
use these
know-
all over. And you've been like one of the main advocates, and I think it's because of your popularity. It's helped the bags themselves, right?
Yeah, I think it was my timing to just be a guy at this particular time when digital cameras and the internet, like cannabis.com and Overgrow and Cannabis World and cannabisculture.com, all of these sites coming out of 99, 2000, 2001, that was the time. And all of a sudden, it all just lined up
This
so
is the
perfectly.
cultural side of it. It's not just that you've developed some product
No.
that is like some, sending it out there and people. There's this whole culture that goes with it, and it's image building. It's really savvy shit. It's smart. It's the same thing that Nike and all these other people do, but you're doing it for something that's actually worth it. You really truly believe in this method and process, and you have a deep philosophy that goes with it, and I think that's why people admire you for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you don't have to know me for very long to know that I'm definitely not making this shit up or pretending to like this.
Yeah.
This is absolutely 100% the driving
Yeah.
force in my existence.
Completely.
So
and you're a talented artist too, so I think that's what's.
It's a tall
perfect.
tale.
That's McMahon out there. But yeah, of course, we publish your stuff in CC. You have amazing
Yeah, for years.
photographs all
For
over the
years.
place. Yeah. Macro photography is one of your specialties, so you really take people inside that plant to see what those trichomes really look like up close, and it's these great, beautiful results. It's like Alice in Wonderland stepping into this other world of small, tiny little things that are so huge when you look at them.
and props to Mark Emery for really recognizing that photography at a time when no one else was doing it. And a lot of magazines were not interested. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe a cannabis magazine wouldn't be interested in National Geographic quality, clear macro photographs
Yeah,
of the plant that
it's
we love
amazing.
so much. Like, Mark was
Well,
just like, I'll take them all.
yeah.
Of course, 50, 60, whatever there is. Like, of course we want them all in the magazine.
Yeah.
And he would buy 20, 30, 40 shots at a time because he understood the sort of value of those photos in the
Completely.
magazine.
Well, and it really is. It not only does it look beautiful, but it has an educational edge to it, and it shows you really what you're getting. And then that allows people to really understand what this hash is. And that's kind of where you've taken it. You started with these photos and looking up close, and then you expand out into this whole idea of educating people on every level of it.
Yeah, no, you said it right there. I didn't really start to take these photos to be an artist. I really did it for education for myself first.
Yeah.
And then as I was learning, like taking a picture and seeing a banana for the first time,
Yeah.
a little male flower, or seeing like what powdery mildew looks like under the macro lens, or a spider mite, or a mutant trichome, or a cystolithaire, all these different things. Here, I have this rip of D420K's OG Ripper.
All right.
Yeah, D420K came by today and kicked me down the most unbelievable dry sift kickdown ever. So I got to thank D420K for that. Thank you, D420K.
Thank you for this. Should I?
I'm shouting you out. He's hitting your hash right now. Yeah, you're good. You just drop that off onto the side. It'll drop, and then your carb cap's either right here or... There you go. Out of the Fabergé egg. Looking good. Yeah, no problem, man. Absolutely. Always happy to share rips
yum.
of goodness. Isn't that just unbelievable?
Wow. Tasty.
So this is a perfect example of how you can do this. Anyone can do this. And Darren was telling the story a little bit, but from 95, me hearing if it don't bubble, it ain't worth the trouble, to 20 years later, guys like D420K and Johnny B and Mies from or Time to Share from IC Mag, all different people just spending their time making this sift with the simple sort of quiver that we've been, I hate to say his name, but Dry Sift Wizards, 2-screen gravity trick, the parchment paper trick, the carding, all these little things to fill your quiver with learning how to, take things to the next level. All right, we got
that's tasty.
Operoo. There you go.
So, and we're using an electric nail here for those people who are watching and don't know what kind of a cool unit this is.
Slow
Got a
and
little
steady.
box here.
Yeah, so this
With
is
the
a
temp right
D-nail.
on it.
This is a D-nail, and the guys at D-nail, I sort of equate them to the equivalent of Bose. So rather than take the money that they make selling their units, I got to hit that because it's hard for me to watch it smoke.
Oh yeah, it's still going.
Actually,
the little cap. How does that actually help it? What does it do?
Well, it restricts the sucking of oxygen, and now you're just getting more smoke. You can
burning
feel
the
it if
product.
you hit quite a bit. The minute you put that on there,
it starts getting.
you've constricted it more.
And really, because it allows you to just get what's there rather than sucking in more air.
What you guys just witnessed, though, with Opus hitting the pipe there, and this is exactly how all of us would have hit it initially, is this old school way of ripping a bong, like just raw. Mm-hmm. The D-nail is more close to a vape hit, and it's a lower temperature, so it takes that 10 or 15 or 20 seconds.
Do it slow, yeah.
It's slow and steady that wins this race for sure.
Yeah, rather than just hammering it.
Otherwise, you get your hit smoking off into the stratosphere. So.
Okay, so let's talk about this concept of bubble hash.
Sure.
Now, when you first saw these bags, and basically the idea is that you're putting your plant in the bag, throwing water and ice over top of it, and out comes the goodies below through the holes in the bag. Yeah. But why? What is the ice and water doing? Why is that important in the process?
Okay, well, I was once again very lucky in the sense that I wasn't there when Reinhardt showed the machine, and when Mila released the bags with Mark Rose naming them, coming up with the name Isolator, Mark Rose manufacturing them, and Eldon, who was sitting next to him, completely inventing them on the spot. Like literally 2 nylon bags with separate screen bottoms and a 5-gallon bucket, and you've got the same thing. That was his statement. Now Mark, sitting next to him, was like, holy shit, I'm going to do this. So there was really no information shared about how it was working, why it was working, even what the screen sizes were. So I was coming from... by then I was 4 years into having Rob as a friend and a bit of a mentor, being able to learn from Rob Clark over the years and reading all his books and sort of being able to have access to him. I understood that the simple process of why this was working is because the Tricome head is a wax membrane, and that wax membrane freezes when it's in the ice and water. And so once it's frozen, it becomes brittle, and in the mixing motion with the ice, they're banging back and forth. They're breaking these little heads clean off the stock bodies, and due to gravity and the density of the oil inside the glandular trichome head, it's still affected by gravity, and it sinks in water while everything else floats. That's it right there.
That's it.
That's what everyone for 10 to 15 years has been bragging about how great they are at making hash, when really water and ice did 95% of the work for them. It cleaned the resin off. The real thing to brag about, in my opinion, if you need to, is how well you broke it up into powder and dried it, because that's where everyone fucks up. That's the unfortunate thing with water hash.
And why is that? What's the mistake there that people are making?
Well, it's the same thing as the BHO community. I mean, there's multiple mistakes, as Steve went on, with butane just being a dangerous solvent, B, a contaminated solvents with accumulative heavy metals that affect our central nervous system, so stay away from those.
Lesions on the brain.
Lesions on the brains, exactly. So you don't want to you don't want to do that. But what they're talking about, if just for the argument of pretending there isn't heavy metal contaminant in there, because that's the real danger, not the butane itself, the argument of purging the butane out of the oil is the same argument we have with water hash of getting the fucking water out of the hash.
Yes.
It's the same thing. If it stays behind, it's going to cause problems. It's going to break down the trichome gland head, and then instead of your hash staying hard and solid at room temperature, it's going to butter out and white out and sort of turn into this, what I would consider a potentially dangerous product, because I'm certain if you actually tested it in a GC, you would find microbiologicals
bacteria growing in it.
Bacteria, fungus,
water.
whatever. It's dangerous.
Can't
And
have water without something growing in it.
they've found bad stuff in that before. I think as bad as E. coli, actually.
Oh shit.
No shit.
Wow.
Oh shit.
Ugh.
Right? So.
Don't want the E. coli hash.
So drying your water hash is very important, and it's one of the reasons when I learned about losing water-soluble terpenes that are escaping into the water wash of the bubble batch.
Losing some good stuff.
And that's when I really started getting into dry sift, and that, I guess it would have been maybe around, I've been selling the Bubble Box, which is a 3-screen kit with a 70 screen on the bottom for carding, I'd say for 10 years, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but I'd say around 10 years or 12 years we've been selling that box. The bigger screens and the tumblers only in the last, 5+ years.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think most of the people watching this show are probably familiar with all of it, but for those who don't know, dry sift, most people know that that's just like the keef that comes off the plant, essentially.
Yeah,
It's these,
really
like
easy
dust.
to make. You
But
can make it
bubble
with
hash
a table.
has a different consistency. The bubble hash itself is these, explain what the bubble hash really looks like.
Well, the bubble hash, in my opinion, has a different texture and appearance, mainly due to the fact that what he's talking about, keef, sift, which is really, we should define the differences between what we're smoking here and what we're saying is sift. Sift, as Jeremiah was mentioning, is a farmer's grade. Like when it's just contaminated, 80, 70, 60% contaminant or even 90% contaminant, you can't compare that to 99% heads.
Right.
And so 99% heads is what bubble hash is all the time. Plus it's been water washed, so they're the cleanest fucking heads. No dust, no hairs, no any fibers. They've all been washed off.
All the junk
and
gets
filtered
taken out of there.
Right. When you make the nicest dry sift, in my opinion, compared to the nicest bubble, they're almost on point with one another.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean by the nicest bubble, I mean bubble that has alcohol-soluble terpenes that are not lost in the water washing. So the flavor of the bubble tastes exactly the way it tasted on the bud, only concentrated and obviously more tasty.
And the actual consistency and texture of the bubble hash is different. It's these larger sort of balls, kind of, the bubble hash itself, right?
Well, I mean, that's another thing. It's, Darren was telling me earlier today, he's like, I use your 4 wood screens and I separate out the grades. And I'm like, perfect, that's what they're for. That's what I have, this 4-screen kit that's all wood, and they've got random size screens that are not the same size as what I call my dry sift quiver, which is the 2-screen trick for the gravity trick, which is simply a 250 micron and a 180 micron on top of one another. One's flipped upside down, so it's flush. You've got 4 little spacers, and you toss a little bit of herb down. The space between the 2 screens and the size of those holes, the heads fall straight down, the contaminant does this, and it often gets trapped in this large screen that would otherwise not catch that contaminant. So that's a very simple,
drifty process.
Very simple trick that if we had the 2 screens right here, we could literally throw some buds or even some sift.
That's the gravity trick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's just a 2-screen gravity trick. And then the secondary trick is, the 110 lines per inch, which is a 150 micron, which is you break the herb up over that screen, or your resin, you can cart it through that screen to take any larger heads or contaminant out. And then down to a 70 micron, which is the tight screen, which is the screen that I teach carding, as well as now the parchment carding as well.
Right, which is
carding
using that static charge to have another layer of isolation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. And so now, where did this come from? Did you guys just pick this up from somewhere? This whole
yeah, it was all grown. I mean, it started with me showing people carding tricks, and then Time to Share is his other name on IC Mag. He did a video, a 45-minute video, sent it to me about a year ago, posted it on IC Mag, and I kind of played around with it, didn't have that much fun with it. Darren was playing around with it and was like, oh, I need a bigger surface. And the real trick wasn't, well, the kid that came up with the parchment paper, he came up with one part of the trick. The other part of the trick, Darren came up with and a DVD case isn't essential, anything that's wider than a card, like if you took 10 cards and wrapped them in parchment, or anything wider, because the real trick to the parchment is the edge of the DVD, that's the only part that does anything. On one side you get contaminant, on one side you get pure, but it's the edge that's actually doing it. So these are all growing processes. I mean, really, you got to give it all up to Skunkman Sam. I mean, everyone's going to step in and take their credit, but really, I give all the credit to Skunkman Sam because He's just been doing this for 35 years. He was the first one to bring us the water extraction in 1988, of course, 9 years before.
88, wow.
Yeah, that's in the High Times issue November, and it's Sadhu Sam's Water Extraction Secret. And you could send $10 away, and he would send you instructions of how to put weed into a jar with water and ice, shake it up, put it on a windowsill, and let it settle and filter off that product.
$10.
So, yeah.
No, that's good.
$10.
I'm sure that seems like a profitable
He said like
enterprise.
15 or 20 people went for it.
That's it.
So you can imagine his surprise 10 years later when he watched like all these bags getting sold.
No
Just
kidding.
Like, oh yeah.
Wow. Well, that's very cool. And so now people can, if they want, I mean, where do they find all of the stuff that you have for sale?
Bubblebag.com. That's singular, no S, BUBBLE, BAG.com. We've also got freshheadies.com and, of course, YouTube, Bubbleman's World.
And that's where I was going to go next, was Bubbleman's World. So not only do you have all these products for sale and stuff, but I was saying you are a talented artist, and you also show people how to use your processes, and you have quite a popular YouTube channel. And what's the, give it again? YouTube.com/
That one is Bubbleman's World.
Bubbleman's World.
And yeah, you know, I do try to promote other things other than myself on there more often than not, in that sense that you don't see me running my products very often. I'm more often doing reviews on cool new products that I found that I like. I'm a bit of a snob that way. I don't like to review products that I know I don't like.
Right. No, it would, just because it's bad form.
Yes, I think so as well.
Yeah.
For me anyway.
Yeah, no, and it's great what you do. I mean, I've always known this about you. You, like you said, you really do care about this stuff. It's not about selling some shit. It's about actually helping people with this product and, you know, use cannabis for what it really should be used for, and it's a cultural thing. And, of course, Johnny and I were talking earlier before you arrived here about your pizza box analogy. Oh, here, I should have put the hash cam on.
Yeah, I just wanted to come over and grab a hit, but yeah, definitely that's where I learned it all from, Mark. That's what I talk so much about.
Mark, maybe you can tell us about your philosophy on hash and why you think hash is something that's, you know, worth the effort going through these processes.
Well, people ask me this all the time. They say, hey, is it worth it if I only have like a quarter? And then I say, is it worth concentrating the medicinals off of, or decontaminating the medicinals from the plant matter that is non-medicinal? They're so locked into the prohibition mindset of buying weed, and they pay this certain price, and they're buying the weed, not the diluted resin, which is how I see it, because I use it for the resin. Yeah. If I looked at a hemp field and it was seed for me, I would look at it as the stock would mean nothing to me. It would be off to my partner who was doing something else with that. I'm growing for seed. So the pizza box analogy is simply, basically a couple years after the if it don't bubble, it ain't worth the trouble, I came up with my own, which was herb is the messenger and bubble is the message. And of course, the word bubble could be changed to all the concentrates, butter or LHO or dry sift or whatever. It's basically, everyone can get hung up on being, you know, the guy that, oh, I'm doing this and he's doing that. But what we're really doing is we're concentrating and promoting phytocannabinoids. And that's where the credit is due, not in who has the best extraction process or whatnot. We'll figure out what all the best extraction processes are. And what that'll do is that'll make the phytocannabinoids that we seek to not only enjoy euphoric feelings, but to feed our endocannabinoid systems with, to actually saturate our endocannabinoid signaling system so that we can, you know, be healthier people. Yeah. That's what it's all about for me at this point in time.
That's the message.
You know, it's recreational, it's medicinal, it's preventative. And then it's industrial on another side, so what an amazing plant.
Mm-hmm. And so this hash process, it's worth it because once you're done, you have something that you don't have to be worried about in any way, really. It's cleaner, it's better for you. Usually, I mean, unless there's something left over in the extraction process, of course.
Well, when we order a pizza, we don't generally eat the box. It's like we know enough that we're like, oh, it's the pizza that's the food, and the box is just the package that the pizza comes in. So it's like, okay, well, think of cannabis like that, because cannabis can bring us all sorts of things. It can bring us cellulose from its inside the stalk for paper production. It can bring us fiber for many products that can be produced out of fiber. It can, including like plastics and all sorts of things. The seed, of course, produces the essential amino acid rich oil that we of course need but can't produce on our own. And so the plant then also produces this resin that is the phytocannabinoids that happen to put our immune system and our central nervous system into homeostasis. Like, that's an essential food source. That's insane that it was ever made illegal.
Yeah.
That's criminal.
It really is.
Like, it's not just like making tobacco illegal or legal. It's like, this is essential food source for humans.
Yep.
We require it. It would be like making essential amino acids.
Yeah, and there's a lot of science going into this whole thing. There really is
enormous
something called
amounts.
cannabinoid deficiency syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah, it's for
Dr.
real.
David Allen blew our minds on Hash Church a few weeks ago when he talked about the amygdaliac hijacking of the signaling system, which signals your brain into upper and lower brain function. It's these endocannabinoids.
Thank you very much, my friend. BudderKing's out.
Take it easy, guys.
Peace, guys. Have a good one. Awesome
Peace,
interview.
guys.
But he was talking about how some people, they are so endocannabinoid deficient that their signaling system no longer allows for the switch between upper and lower brain function, which upper would be empathy and compassion and love, and lower would be fight or flight.
Right, get
like
mine.
just trying to protect yourself type of thing. So
Yeah.
when you get your signaling system deficient and this little switch is locked downward in the fight or flight mentality, those people tend to become prison guards and go into the army and become police officers. And it's that lack of empathy and emotion that allows them to do cruel things to people. You know, 'cause
Exactly.
nobody that's empathetic and filled with love wants to work in a prison and see people suffer.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
Like,
well, and I mean, a lot of times I think people are, they've done these Stanford prison experiments and stuff where they find that there's certain situations that make even the kindest people into criminals, but, horrible people that will do bad things to each other if they think they can just, they told me to. They were in a white lab coat and shit.
yeah.
But still, I mean, there's a certain type of person who's drawn to this attitude of wanting to lord over others and be in control of others.
Yeah, for
And,
sure.
And that's, like you say, there's a lot of that in that whole fight or flight idea.
yep. It's
Yeah.
definitely the reptilian part of the brain.
Yeah.
That,
Smoke hash.
And
Well,
then the
that's
bummer
why-
is
yeah.
the people who love smoking hash, who are empathetic, are like, man, I don't want to control anyone, man. Like,
Yeah.
everyone
Why?
should
That's,
just
that's
relax.
why they don't become police
Easier that way,
officers
isn't
or
it?
government officials.
No.
That's why we're all sitting here
No,
puffing,
it's
getting
true.
along.
The natural outgrowth of our society is that the zealots become the people in power, and they're assholes.
Generally, yep.
Yeah, we
They're
got
the ones that
Dino
want to
going
be
on.
in power.
We're about ready to have
Anybody
a serious
who wants
puff
to be a
down
cop
here.
probably shouldn't be a cop.
No, exactly. But you have to take a look at it, and that's what Mark was saying there, is how cannabis it soothes you, it relaxes you, it
Listen,
regulates.
let
the
me
central
tell
nervous
you
system.
about a heavy puff down.
Okay.
Because you just said we're about to have a heavy puff
No,
down.
you already did it apparently.
Darren
puff
and
down.
I got so destroyed earlier today when we were like, hey, let's
We're
film a
about ready
video.
to destroy you.
Darren's
guys.
like, yeah, I want to give you this sift. And I'm like, oh, let's film a video of you telling me about each one and we'll smoke each one. I thought there was like 5 different kinds. He's like, okay, yeah, no problem. There's like 11. And I'm like, what? Yeah, there's 11 kinds of full melt dry sift. So we sat there in an hour and 13 minutes. Every 5 minutes each, we took a big dab of this fucking full melt resin. The stuff
Awesome.
that you just hit, and he's about to, and he's
Nice.
about to.
So I think this is what's
one for
happening.
you
It's
right
starting to
now.
go.
Oh,
It's what's
excellent.
happening.
Wow.
Everybody's
Here,
getting
let's try the
ripped
can
stuff.
over here.
It's starting.
I mean, it's
Wow.
such a nice...
And we
Tim-
can.
Sorry?
I was gonna say maybe we can even try that other nail, the titanium. I mean the silicone one.
I definitely brought it.
Because we were mentioning that in the very beginning and about the flavors and tastes, and I wanted to leave that up to you because you were talking about that.
Well,
about
look
the
at
difference
BudderKing.
between
He hit off of this little pipe that
Yeah.
Darren has, and he was like, "Whoa, that tastes super weird," because he hit it off quartz instead of titanium, and he got a different he got a different terp profile off of it. And I found when I first started hitting quartz that titanium was less tasty to me.
Yeah.
And then I found when I started hitting the silicon carbide that quartz was less tasty to me, and that's just the way the terpenes react and sublimate or evaporate or vaporize. The way they do differently from quartz to titanium to ceramic to silicon carbide, all these different heat sources, they taste different.
Yeah, we are all definitely
It's amazing.
saying that, and I was mentioning that in the beginning. that when you gave Jody a hit last night, she was mentioning how tasty it was, and then you were going on because it was on that silicone.
Well, you know what? I bet you she would have said that on any surface, because I don't think she is puffing full melt dry sift on the regular.
No, just when I come down here.
Yeah. You getting what? Yeah. Well, I thought we were going in a row.
Yeah.
Are we going?
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
you know what? You're working. We'll take care of you first. You're working.
Wow. That burned for a long time.
So now imagine 10 more of those.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay,
Dude,
number
it
one.
was
Here we go.
It was absurd.
We're gonna hit
bro.
Jeremiah 10 times in a row. He gets one every
Dude,
minute.
I'm telling you, I did it once today.
With every 10
And
minutes.
halfway, no, more than halfway through, towards the 9th hit, I think I said to Darren, we should do them all on the silicon carbide nail now.
I think we should.
Wow. So, gets my heart beating fast.
Give him the mic.
I was
This
thinking
one's
you were
done.
going to say you're going to have a last couple of tokes on that carbide, but then you said all 11.
All
I was just
11.
see the video.
So, wait,
My
is the video
reaction's
up
pretty
yet,
funny.
did you say?
No. The last video I posted is with Horatio, actually,
Oh,
and
yes.
it's talking about we've
Kinda
got wet herb, we've got dry herb, we've got the dry sift, and then we've got the LHO and the terpenes. Although the terpenes weren't present in the video, he does have them, and he's on his way here right now, and I'm going to get them from him. So we were kind of doing a little test on smelling the herb fresh and the way it smells with chlorophyll and all these sort of water and these maskers that hide the profile, and then smelling the profile in dry cured herb. Whoa. And then hitting a dry sift hit and then hitting an LHO hit. It was a quite a nice little, collection of extractions and
kidding.
bud.
Now, here, can you walk us through, Bubbleman, the different kinds of concentrates? I mean, there's such a wide rainbow of them, but
There
we
is.
have, obviously the standard hash, like finger hash that comes straight off of your hands and body, and you can just ball up into black.
Finger hash.
Yeah.
Legit, old school.
Old school style, you just from
Tasty.
rubbing
India,
plants.
Nepal, many
Yeah.
cultures. They have it kind of in places like Jamaica, but it's more collected from scissors and like different smuggling. Like
Yeah.
back in the day when they would hammer pounds into into rims of tires to get ready for smuggling.
Yeah.
The excuse me, the sledgehammers would be covered in rub. Thick amounts of it. And that's why the Jamaican gum, if it's real, back then anyway, in the late 80s, early 90s, it was as hard as a rock.
Right.
Like you could get it under your, if you're trying to break it, you could hurt your, under your nail.
Well, and so of course then there's and actually back in antiquity, I guess people would run out through the fields naked and actually collect the hash from off their bodies.
Yeah,
and
I
everything
heard
like that.
this. I think I heard it more along the hippie hashish trail that it was happening, which would be probably around I guess in the 70.
Right. Well, I guess
69.
maybe not going back too far, but I always envisioned
Well, you know what? A lot of people think
Greeks
that
or
the
back in
hash
who knows
making
when.
goes back further than it does to the places that it does. Because if you read hashish and you look in the Middle East and in some
Middle
parts,
East, Afghanistan.
the Sufis were doing it like a long time ago.
Exactly.
In places like Morocco, it wasn't until the 60s that a gentleman, I believe it was a Mustafa, a Nigerian, who brought Lebanese screening techniques, and it was the early 60s. It wasn't until the mid-60s that Morocco started going hard, and by the 70s become one of the largest world exporters of hashish.
And so who are the major producers? Afghanistan.
Morocco for sure, Pakistan, India, Afghanistan,
Yeah.
Nepal, much smaller amounts. And then now I'm happy to say North America representing.
Do they have full melt?
Do they have full melt?
How
Yeah.
many tons do you think are of hash are produced even just with bubble bags on an annual basis?
Oh my God, I can't imagine. It must be a fuckload.
It's more than many countries are producing annually, I'll tell you that much.
Wow. So you're like a Mark Emery with you're responsible for all this bubble hash out there.
No, I'm not responsible. Each and every person is responsible. That's the beautiful thing. They made it happen, because
Yeah,
you could
tell
buy
that to
bubble
the
bags
DEA.
and throw them under your bed and nothing would happen. It's not without you that they work.
Have you ever run into problems with paraphernalia laws anywhere in the world?
No, not at all. We've shown the process can be done with a multitude of plants that secrete essential oils through glandular trichomes. And so we've done it with roses, and we've done it with yerba mate, and we've done it with lavender, and we've done it with mints and spearmint and a whole variety of
I
that
want
family.
some of that mint shatter.
You do, absolutely. I did this like 15 years ago. I remember buying organic mint from Sweet Cherry Bum, which was right next to my gallery.
Yeah.
and taking it home, running it through the bags, and being like, whoa, like it was gummy and like kind of dank. And my wife was kind of like, what are you going to do with that? And I'm like, I'm going to dry it out into powder, and then I'm going to hit it. And she's like, you're going to hit it? And I was like, yeah. So I hit it by myself, and it was kind of like weird, not really that good.
Huh.
But then my next step was like, I'm going to hit it with bubble. So I took a big rip of bubble, and then I took the same amount of mint bubble, and I mixed them together, and then I made a patty and put it in my bowl, and I ripped that fucking thing, blew it out, and I remember being like, oh my God.
Did it taste minty?
There was a light mint taste, but my cough was completely suppressed.
Oh.
So I'm tripping, and I'm like, this is insane. So I punch into Google, mint suppressed cough, and I get this like, I think it was what's like a big evil tobacco company? Philip Morris.
Philip Morris, yeah.
Philip Morris has this like $20 million study they did to try and figure out a cigarette that had a suppressed cough. And this is when they discover mentholated cigarettes. They spent $20 million discovering that.
Makes perfect sense.
I did it in an afternoon with a 1-gallon set of bubble bags and a little bit of mint from Sweet Cherry Bomb.
I have my Hall's mentholyptus. It's like peppermint. You know?
Yeah, but think of back before it happened. Like, these guys didn't know. It was kind of like the Americans making spending millions on the pen that writes in space. And the Russians are like, we used a pencil. It's like, oh.
Mint, yeah. Yeah, of course. It makes perfect sense.
Oh, a pencil. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, why didn't they use a pencil?
Did everyone get a rip?
But so we were going through the different kinds of
so you got through...
We got through like finger hash, essentially, just regular black hash.
And then screened hash from all the production companies we mentioned.
Yeah, like in keef that just comes out of your grinder and all that kind of stuff.
Keef that comes out of your grinder, sure.
And but then there's bubble hash.
Then you got your bubble hash, you got your... I don't consider
butter.
Any of the oils to be hash.
Oh, of course, there's just
They're
oil.
Concentrates.
Now, this
Thank
is
you,
what
brother.
I remember from when I was younger, before there was any of these new concentrates that we knew anything about over in Nanaimo. We were, of course, making just regular oil. And so you were just, just making honey oil or whatever.
I was making oil when I was like 15, so that's like 1985 or something.
And we were doing shit like just throwing ISO in a pot, throw the leaves in there, and fucking stirring up or what, like, just crazy shit. Like,
sit for a month under this cup.
Yeah.
And then strain it, and you got this dark green, black crud.
It's just so sick.
High off of.
Yeah. It's messed up.
Yeah.
We dried out the leaves and thought we got high, but we smoked it.
And so there's bubble hash, and there is dry sift and full melt dry sift, the variety of difference. The water hashes have been since named a multitude of names, from solventless to ice wax to bubble hash to full melt.
Yeah.
And then you have all the oils, from shatters and different solvent extracts, from hexane to propane to butane to isopropanol to ether to pure alcohol, grain alcohol.
Yeah.
Lots of different ways to extract it, and I think once we all have access to labs, because right now, no matter what, we can all think, oh, this is... I mean, this, for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, has the least footprint, because when you do any type of an extraction in science, you're going to leave a footprint behind. If you extract with any type of solvent or alcohol or water or anything, this one's unique because it's a mechanical separation that's using screens and gravity and static to clean to a point of purity that leaves you with an unadulterated cannabinoid profile that the plant produced without you doing any... And of course, the one way you can manipulate it is, which this has been done, is to separate it out into the multitude of screens, which you can then take a gram of each one of those or a profile of each one of those and make your own. You don't have to separate them all out, but it's fun.
And you're not getting any metal residue left over on the screens or anything like that, or do the screens come? What about the chemicals they use in the factory that get on a screen? Is there anything like that?
I mean, I've never found anything, but once again, it's all about the guessing of, do we have a lab? I mean, I've heard of this stuff being tested and being extremely high in THC, but it's really about saying, do you have a lab and are you testing for these things? And once you do that, then you know.
Yeah. Well, and BudderKing says that when he had his stuff tested, that it was clean, and he puts up all the results and everything.
But it needs to be tested every single time. That's a real standard, not just nice. You don't test once and then those are your standards that you just tell everyone for every batch.
Yeah.
Every batch gets tested, because that's a standardization that people deserve. And I think that's one of the things that people have a hard time wrapping their head around with, like, licensed producers. I'm not for licensed producers at the expense of MMAR licenses. I accept only both of them. But I do see their place in the sense that they will have to adhere to standards that currently dispensaries don't have to. And if you go into the city and you look at the dispensaries that have the highest standards, the people that are like hardcore putting the weed under a microscope looking for molds right away, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
People are afraid to bring her pounds. And that's a scary thing, that they'll bring those pounds happily to any other dispensary, but they're afraid to go down and see her because they know, she's fucking hardcore, man. She really she's not even testing with a lab, but she's doing as much as she can with her senses and with the prosthetics of a microscope and other little tools.
That's good.
Well, yeah, it's good. I mean,
should
come
all be
on.
doing
Do
that.
people not deserve that? Holy shit, man.
I know.
You're paying damn
It's
near
medicine.
prohibition-based prices at these compassion clubs.
Yeah, or more.
Yes. For
$12 grams.
Okay, that's a
Wow,
$5,000 pound.
Yeah.
Really?
That's compassionate.
What a joke.
$5,000 pound, and there's no standards behind that. That's fucking what I am against right there.
No, I'm totally with you.
I'm
on
afraid of that.
There's no reason that with 70 dispensaries in the city that people should be charging $12 a fucking gram.
No. Okay, how about this? How
Wow.
about maybe there is, if, and only if, and I doubt it, we implement MMAR licenses stay the way they are, and new people can get them, as many as that want them. They're going to figure out that at no value, you're not allowed to sell your weed at a dispensary, and you're not allowed to sell your weed to an LP. However, another license is implemented which allows you to get a special grow license to grow more than just for you. But now you have to implement standards, and you're legally allowed to sell to dispensaries and or LPs.
Okay.
But you have standards to adhere to, and
like
those
this.
standards might cost you a lot of money, and you might have to sell the weed for $6 a gram instead of $2 or $8. I don't know. I'm not pretending to know, but I'm saying if the prices are up there, there better be some fucking overhead just like that behind those prices.
I agree with you, but I wonder if that should be done on a self-regulatory sort of scale, like the Cam CD the guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if there's a series of labs that
I
are
get worried when the government steps in.
well, maybe they
sort of
don't have to.
quality
Maybe
control on
maybe
cannabis.
labs can, because governments don't have to be. You know, maybe one government lab can be involved, but first of all, any testing that is done needs to be redundant. You can't do one test at one
But
lab.
how do you test for? See, the problem with pot testing is
I know.
that it's so inconsistent because you have, you'd have to do a hell of a lot of testing all the time to really keep on top of all of it. Even for
Okay,
the
you know what's
same
going to happen?
batch.
And those type of standards.
What's going to happen though is the way we'll be forced to do the amount of testing that we're going to have to do.
Yeah.
People are going to come up with way better ways than what is currently available. There
That's
are
good.
some pretty incredible
Yeah.
ways in the works right now, and when it becomes just like counting a stack of cash with a money counter.
Yeah.
Oh, bing, bing, bing.
Yeah.
Then it'll be at a point where, okay, you've got your little tester right here, you're a dispensary, everything that comes in is going through this. You have maybe a certified technician that runs that machine,
Yeah.
and they're certified, and that's the...
You just shoot a laser at it and it's like, brrr. Oh,
Well,
perfect.
maybe that's simple, some real cool handheld HPC type thing that allows
The
to
bubble
read
sensor.
to read a profile,
The
to
bubble
read
laser.
macro.
You gotta invent that.
Yeah, give you a profile. You could dial it in and be like, I want the terpene profile. I want the cannabinoid profile.
Totally.
All of it, right? So why not dream it? If we are forced into situations like standards, which I don't think is a bad thing. Now, I admit, yes, a lot of people haven't been like dying because they smoke weed that had maybe
Right.
some water in it or whatnot.
Right.
Let's
That's
just
what I
be
mean.
honest that if it's going to be sold as a medicine,
Yeah.
standards are required.
But people, see, I always have a lot of faith in people making their own determinations about things. But although I know that's not perfect, because grandma or whoever that knows nothing about weed might be like, oh, is this good? And nobody's going to tell her wrong. And then she takes some shitty pot and so on and so forth. But yeah, I see it from all angles. I think that you're right. Unless there's a serious danger, though, I hope the government doesn't get too involved in quality control of cannabis. But
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, they don't need to, Like the people who can get involved
Cam
with
CD.
cannabis are the agriculture community,
yes.
the botany community,
Yeah.
the chemistry community. Those are the communities from universities and from other
Yeah.
independent sources, but it doesn't
Good
have to be
science,
government.
though. It has to be good science.
Well, that's it. Good science is what we need. And I personally think the science for cannabis and phytocannabinoids is about to blow up.
Yeah, it's getting there now.
Yeah.
People are
Well,
actually spending
it's
some
gotten
money
to a
on it.
point where exactly, and like we talked about on House Church, that we're not the next levels are scientists taking a look, ripping that molecule apart, looking
That's
at
it.
the terpenes,
Oh,
looking at the
yeah.
modulating effects of what it can do to the central nervous system. There's a lot out there that really the research is now being looked at because we've pushed it this far.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah,
man.
because everyone-
It's now a whole new era of what we're looking at, a whole new era of cannabis. And it's exciting in a certain way that we're really going to be able to see certain different things and how it's going to be able to help us in so many different ways. And exactly what Mark's talking about, what Horatius thing, what everybody's doing. It's just a whole new thing, and scientists need to look at it, and these standards need to be implemented so we can have a better look at what we can actually do with this plant. It's exciting.
Right.
It
so
is.
now we always are going off on these tangents, but we were still talking about the different kinds of concentrates. Now, one that's really caught on that everybody knows and uses dabbing all the time is this shatter. And shatter has a particular consistency where it's like BudderKing was talking about glass earlier. It's very brittle when it's hard, and you can like literally take a sheet of it and smash it and shatter it. But if you are to sort of bend it slowly, it's malleable, and you can move it around and do things with it. And but so what is it? How is that happening? What does this consistency come from? How is that a different process?
Shatter is generally a de-waxed material. They remove the waxes from fats and lipids from using different techniques and solvents. I'm not an expert on it by any means, but there's many guys and many places that you can go for the information that are self-confessed experts for sure on that process of just the different, like what BudderKing was talking about. Shatter is really just another technique to produce an end result that I'm not sure if it's increasing the strength of the product, because I don't use those products, but it's definitely changing the appearance. And because of it, what I see in my community often is people asking me, hey, how do I get my bubble dabbable? How do I get my dry sift dabbable? And my answer is always like, well, grow better herb. And no one generally wants to hear that, but I think it's a great lesson to learn if you're not growing good enough herb.
I got friends that
Have your
are
residence.
in the business of making a lot of shatter. They have the ovens, and
Grow
one
better
thing I'm
weed.
realizing with them is on their crop days, they're cropping early to get the clear shatters that you're seeing, the ones that are really clear. So that's just an earlier cropping time from what I'm seeing. There are different ways that they're cooling it, and with dry ice, they have all these different methods, but it all comes down to ovens, and they're controlling their temperatures and how long they're actually letting it sit in these ovens and trying to purge out what they think they're getting out, because
terpenes.
And that's why they're trying to get the terpenes. That's why shatters have no terpenes, and they're trying to find ways of putting those terpenes back in.
Yeah, well, that's what Kay's been working on for the last year and a half.
Exactly,
Kay
right.
from Tricomes Technologies, who actually recently on Hash Church was shouted out Steve the BudderKing for
what I said.
his ISO, while he was really legitimately like bashing on most of the BHO guys, because he's not really as into that process. It is very dangerous.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
one thing
Yeah, that's
I
one
want to
thing
go
we were
back to
talking
is
about.
what the most dangerous chemicals in the world is like that 1.001% that is in butane, because that's where they get rid of it. From what I understand, it's just like you don't want to use it. But anyways, off the butane part,
Brain lesions. That's enough said.
scary, man.
Enough said.
Stick with some wet wash and dry sift.
Yeah. The clean stuff.
And
So
the
yeah,
fab
so that,
A.
and everybody really you see that shatter a lot everywhere. And then there's other waxes and all these other kinds of things that are essentially like butters or something.
Oh wow, I thought
Like-
Chimera was in the chat. I was going to say
Like
hi.
I said-
I will say hi to Redbeard.
Redbeard's out there in the chat.
What's up, Redbeard?
The
Is
beard.
chat nice? Is chat nice? I kind of
No.
looked over. It seemed like chat was not nice.
No, chat's not nice.
No,
That's
what's wrong
too
with
bad,
shatters?
you know.
Well,
what
chat
I-
is sometimes nice, but mostly there's there's
I
a
know
lot of
nothing
chatters
about
who are
shatter.
awesome. I
Yeah.
don't want to diss the chat because the chat's awesome.
No.
There's
I
like
love
some
chatter.
really
Well,
awesome
just it's
chatters.
like asking
But we
your.
have some trolls in the chat.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's never really nice
Never
in the chat or
nice.
anything. But that's kind
But
of
you
part
know
of
what?
the fun,
Everybody's
though.
got different ways of consuming their
That's
cannabis,
part of
and
the
that's
fun.
the best part about it.
Well, yeah,
You know what?
GG
They
Bless.
just learn a little bit about what you're consuming. That's just the best part about it.
GG Bless, great gardener. We shout you out for all your wonderful strains and your wonderful resin, and yeah, you're getting shouted out in the chat, and we respect that because man, you're good at what you do. No doubt about that.
Yeah,
GG
definitely.
Bless.
Man, well, this is a totally awesome show. Now we have videos from. I mean, we could play essentially any video. What do you guys think we should play? I want to play a video at the end of the show.
The one that Mark did
But
on
what
Dry
should I
Sift
play?
Quiver
Like,
is showing all of the methods and stuff like that.
this latest one that's in that forum post that we were
in
talking
that
about?
forum post, I put there's 4 videos in there. One of Darren, one of the guy with the static, one with Mark with the Dry Sift Quiver of doing it, and then one I did the other day with just some old swag I had lying around, and I was just like upstairs and looking at the screens, and what it really was is I went upstairs to grab some painkillers, and I looked over at my screens, and I just threw some stuff on there, and I made some quick little melts, and it was just a good little thing. And anybody can do it, and it's just something that you should do.
Hey, we should shout out High Integrity Glass for the killer mothership piece, and mothership, and D-Now, and Higher End for making killer hash, growing killer weed.
Yeah, shout them all out.
Everybody.
And you should, again, before we... You know what? I was going to bring Annette on the show, actually. She hasn't hit any of this stuff. She should probably come and take a puff of this.
She should.
I was going to talk to her about our website we've been working on. But, yeah, the video then, Johnny, you think we should play is the...
Dry Sift Quiver.
The Dry Sift Quiver.
That covers it all.
Okay, well,
Filling,
from there,
filling your Dry Sift
You're gonna have to
Quiver.
fill
filling your
here and
Dry
show me
Sift
which one
Quiver,
it is,
and
yeah.
then of course it's in the
If
in,
you
in the
even just
forum.
go into YouTube.
And then there's
Oh, that's it right there.
That's
Yeah.
the one.
There it
that's
is.
the one.
I'm going to bring that up. Yeah, and Annette, you should come over. Maybe one of you boys
I'll bump
slide
out.
out of there.
I'll bump out.
Yeah. Cool. Excellent, my
Thank you,
friend. That was
Jeremiah.
fantastic.
Yes, awesome.
Much appreciated,
I'm
brother.
definitely
Much
gonna.
appreciated. And watch youtube.com/Bubbleman's World. Many videos. Awesome stuff. Yeah, we should give this fine young lady something to get high on there.
Here, I'll sit next to her.
Yeah. Hi, Annette. How's it going? Here, hold on. Let me put this back.
It's going good.
Oh, yeah. So, what's she going to hit here, Bubbleman?
You know what? Let's go for the flavorful New York City Diesel from
New York City Diesel.
D420K. Smell that
Oh.
That's beautiful.
one. Citrus.
So, how are you, Annette?
Good.
You and I, working on our new Cannabis Culture and Pod TV websites.
Yeah, I was just working away on that.
Were you?
Sitting
oh,
over
nice.
there,
What were you
yeah.
working on? Coding? You, sit there and just
Coding.
hack through all this damn code.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that for hours.
Just crunching PHP.
Yeah. Big blocks of text on her screen when I walk by. I'm like, she's just
Yep.
staring at it. So I'm excited about what you've been working on.
Me too.
Yeah, WordPress has allowed us to do a lot more fun stuff. And
Totally.
yeah, okay, well, here you go. Here to hit that shit. Oh, yeah. Nice. And so I guess you're going to have to tune in for Redbeard's show tomorrow. Saturday's the Redbeard show on Pot TV, 4 p.m. I see Redbeard still there in the chat. He said he found honey oil back in the day. He was told it was made from ether. No idea if that was BS or what. Wow. Nice.
What?
He said that the honey oil was made from ether back then. That's what they told him.
Well, I'll tell you. My old mentor. Can I?
Tell the microphone, yeah.
My old mentor. Actually, no, it wasn't ether. This reminds me of a story, though I have to tell it anyway. It was chloroform. The shit that knocks you out.
Yeah.
And my friend got a bunch of this back in the day.
Yeah.
And he was whipping off a batch and off-gassing it with a little fan, blowing it out the window.
Oh, no.
And we went outside and we were like, oh my God, dude, you killed a squirrel with all the chemical off-gassing. Because the squirrel was out. It was a pretty big squirrel,
Just
too.
chloroformed him.
And so he picked him up with a shovel because he kind of didn't want to touch it and just kind of gently picked him up and brought him in the house. And he was like, felt all bad. This was my mentor, Ron Hickey. And he's kind of real upset about it. And we're just getting baked and kind of bummed about this squirrel. And then all of a sudden, the squirrel comes back to life. It wakes
It was
up.
just chloroform.
Dude, it was ripping around his house.
Oh, man. Crazy.
I'll tell you, squirrels are insane when you put them indoors, man. You do not want
They're
squirrels
fast little
indoors.
devils.
Anyway.
My neighborhood's full of these really dark black squirrels. And one time I was laying in my bed, and I heard this like tapping on the window, and it like scared me. I thought like a bird had hit the window or something. So I like pulled the blinds up, and there was literally a squirrel like sitting right there at my window, like peeking in my window. And I was like, I knew that these squirrels were badass when like invading, breaking through the window. Thanks for having me on, bro. Thanks, Bubbleman. That was an awesome interview. Excellent stuff. And thanks for getting me so super high. How do you like that one?
It's incredibly smooth. That was awesome. So tasty.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So I guess how long are we gonna? I guess we're still gonna be a little while before our website's done, but it's coming soon.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't want to give any date yet because then we'll be like.
There's a lot of variables.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, but
Yes.
it's going very well so far. We're just migrating information from an old system to a new system. So, and isn't that second part coming soon or something?
Yes.
Okay, good. Awesome, Annette. Well, thanks for coming on and getting high. I'm going to play this video now. Now, this is the Bubbleman video. Let me just make sure I can get this up here. I'm pressing the YouTube button. This is called Filling Your Dry Sift Quiver. Now, this is an episode of Bubbleman's World here. Let's make sure that the sound's okay. And so, yeah, again, you can watch Redbeard tomorrow, 4 p.m. Don't forget that. Now, Opus, we talked earlier on the show. Opus was here. Is he still in the house anywhere? No, he's not. He is just moving into his new house in Vancouver, so he's not entirely sure if he's going to be able to do a show this week or not. I think that was the gist of it. He also seemed, I think he's like canceled his Facebook page or something too. I don't know where he's gone, what he's doing. Opus goes through that sometimes. He's like, fuck this thing, fuck Facebook, fuck everything. Fuck the show. I gotta just focus on this. And I think that's where he's at. Johnny B, thanks for coming on today, as usual. Resident co-host.
I just love to. I love to come down here and talk with you guys.
I love having you come down
You know
here
what?
and talk with us.
And it was just.
You always keep me nice and
I
floaty.
know. Mark wants
in the
to.
stars.
You're doing the video. Let's do the video.
Yeah, it's ready to roll. All right, Pod TV. I'm gonna roll the video, and we'll see you guys next week. I'll be back again next Friday with more fun. You can watch all of our Pod TV shows through the week at pod.tv, of course. So tune in and enjoy. Love you, boys and girls. Boys and girls. Boys and girls. Bubbleman's World. Bubbleman's World.
Welcome to Bubbleman's World, and welcome to Filling Up Your Dry Sift Quiver. That's the title of the video today that we're doing, and what I've got here is I have a whole variety of different sizes and actual screen sizes. Both, obviously, you can see that these are a much different size screen in just their actual size, but also the holes themselves are different as well, so I'm going to get into talking a little bit about that. I've got three things that I'm going to cover today. I'm going to cover the simple trick that everyone's been talking about. Two screens are used, a 250 micron as well as a 180 micron. That's these two right here. So these are my medium-sized screens, and they come in a 2 and a 4 screen set. So I'm not sure if you noticed when I lifted up the screen, but I've cut my screen in half here. So you can see that with the Fresh Heady screens, because we put them on properly, that even a rip from one piece of the metal to the next, I can still use this screen, and I'm going to show you how. Of course, I will eventually replace it, as using the best possible tools is always the best possible idea, but I'm just showing you that you can actually use these screens even once they've been potentially damaged. So, I guess the first way we're going to do today, mentioned the three methods. I guess I could do that right over there, actually. So, I've got a little bit of nugget in this screen here. I'm going to change the camera angle for you guys, bring it a little closer so you can see what's going on here, okay? Alright, so what I have here is a tiny little bit of bud that I broke up over top of this screen. And to show you this process, really, to show you how absolutely delicate it is, it's really just a matter of dropping the herb. That's probably more than I needed to do right there. Okay, so we lift up our first screen, and you can see on it, right here, you can see that it's captured some contaminant. So if I move in for you there, you can see that that is contaminant. It's sitting on top of the screen. And it's very delicate, this contaminant, okay? This contaminant can fall so easily. So what we really need to do is we need to lift up the screen like this, both of them at a time. And I'm sorry that I don't have this on the all white part of this screen, but we can just do this. So that was the Sift Wizard technique. I don't usually give him much of a shout out because I find him to be a little bit negative. So this is what you would call a very high percentage of heads, possibly upwards of 80 to 90%. And that's because I've already run this material once. So it's sort of at the end, knocking over the parchment. And so another thing you can do with this process is you can kind of gently mix the herb across the screen. This is going to release a lot of contaminant, but what you can do with this method is once you've collected your higher grade, you can produce a secondary grade that is going to be much more contaminated. I can see already that the color is much darker. Keep in mind this was only about 7 grams of cannabis total that I broke up here. I just wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of how the sift trick works. And so you can also give this a little shiggy. And what we get here is gentle contaminants sitting on top of this screen. And it's best to just keep those off to the side. And then we can take this sift. Now this trick can be used over and over and over again, and it doesn't just need to be used with herb. You can actually use this trick with sift as well. And I'll show you how we can do that real quick. Just get this guy out. Put the herb on the screen here. Okay. Give it a quick rinse. Alright, so now another way you can use this trick is I've got my colander. This is a 250 micron screen. I use it mostly just to get the hash evenly to fall so it's not in clumps. As you can see here, I've got a little bit of the barb. It's clumped up. We can drop it in here gently. I'm not going to use a ton because I just want to show you the process. And I can gently rub this over the screen, break these little balls down. I can use my finger to break these balls down. They're not that tough. A little bit tougher than the brush will allow, but once you've got these components broken into smaller little pieces where they'll actually run through the screen, then it's just a matter of rinsing and washing with the brush over and over again to push this stuff through. And what you'll often be found with at the end is you'll end up with a tiny little bit of contaminant. So, as well as a couple of balls that just don't want to break. So, give you that little show right there. So this is a lower grade right here. It's completely covered in cystolith hairs and captitate stalks. So, just from that, without doing anything else, without banging or touching anything too harsh, we can see that barely anything fell through. So, we're going to give it a gentle card. Just a gentle card to get some of this resin to come through. This is a little bit different than the herb process. But what this will do is it'll drop these resin heads and these contaminants through. And you can see now on my secondary screen that I have all of this contaminant sitting right here on top of the screen. To the naked eye, it may not look like contaminant, but when I get my macro lens out and I show you what's going on here, you guys will see it as clear as a day. Alright, so gather up a little bit more. And so this is from the barb. Get that one over there because it was a little different. So here you have some pure heads from the barb. Now you can see that the process is really giving us a small amount each time. And so that's why today I wanted to go over a multitude of processes. Alright, so back to the distance shot here. I want to show you with the two screens what I've done here, which is a fairly important component. It's on the bottom side of this screen. What I've added is, I've added 4 little spacers, and I've glued them to the bottom of the corners. Now these spacers came from one of my Pelican cases. It's simply the foam that was inside the Pelican case. I pulled out 2 little strips for each corner, cut them about 2 inches long, and I glued them to the bottom of the screen. So the top screen sits like a dish, right? But the bottom screen sits upside down, so the screen is flush to the frame. So you get the 2 like this. Okay? And this process is great for having at your office next to you on your desk, having it set up in your home somewhere always. So it's just sitting there. You've got a nice sheet of plexiglass or glass or whatever you have cut to fit your screens. I use this little piece of white paper because I'm constantly moving them around. It seems to be easiest for me. Very easy to brush off as well. And one of the things I should mention, that the reason this is all going to work today is because it's very cold outside. It's extremely cold outside right now. It must be close to below 0, which is why dry sifting, A, with the properly dried material, and B, in the proper setting with the proper variables, i.e. it being cold and dry. We don't want a lot of humidity in the air. We want it to be cold and dry. And that's what it is right now. No doubt about it. So, I guess we could card a little bit more of this gently through. I'm not even carding it because the hole's so big I can actually just use the brush. And so gently, gently, gently. That's going to produce an enormous amount of contaminant, but a small, small amount of the goods. I just don't have enough room. There we go. There we go. It's always good to set everything up so you have room. Okay. Get 3 nice little piles here. Now keep in mind, we've used a very small amount. We used about 7 grams of bud to get these 2 little piles, which I've already gotten all the good stuff from that bud, unfortunately. I wasn't able to show you the fresh bud being crushed up and then being used, but I kind of want to show you guys, you don't have to have bud. You can use older material that's trim or larf bud that's been crushed up. You can, of course, use beautiful top quality bud, which I urge you to do. And of course you can use sift as well, like you saw us do with this. And you could run it over and over and over again through these screens, throwing it down gently, lifting up the 2 screens, collecting the small amount of what's there, and just putting it onto the side. This is one technique, this is one method, and I urge you to have it in your hash quiver. This is a 60 lines per inch as well as a 90 lines per inch, which is 250 micron for the 60 and 180 micron for the 90. The numbers are counterintuitive and don't match up, as you might have noticed. Lines per inch is a much smaller number to equal a much higher micron number. So I guess what we're going to do is, that's enough with that process. I've shown you pretty clearly what you can do with that if you need be. So, now I guess we'll talk a little bit about the other 2 screens. Now, the other 2 screens are the 110 lines per inch and the 200 lines per inch. This is a 110 right here, and what I would do with these is pretty much the same thing. You don't need the spacers, but you can put them on as well. And what I do is I have the top one right side like this, so it's like a dish that my material can fit in, whether I'm cleaning sift, whether I'm cleaning cannabis bud or dry trim. Regardless of what I'm cleaning, I always have this one upright like a dish. We're not going to be using that because I've already acquired the secondary material that I want to use. So we're going to get right into carding. And so a lot of you know the process of carding. It's simply put, we can take a little bit of resin, get it into here. Always the bumps want to fall out first. That's just the way it's going to be. Oops. Get rid of that stuff. There we go. And I would also suggest that you get a couple of brushes. I clean mine all the time, but it's nice to have one brush that you can use for plant matter and another brush or 2 that you can use to scoop up your resins. Even when you're dealing with the cleaned resin that you've already cleaned, it's nice to have a separate brush for the contaminant as opposed to for the pure heads. So we'll take this, we'll run it through the colander real quick. Right. And this just gets it even. This is just like taking your flour and milling it. We do this because it's going to remove a tiny bit of contaminant, which I will show you in the corner here again. Yeah, that's just nasty. Nasty, nasty. All right. And then carding. So, standard carding that I've been showing for quite a few years now, which is just to take the resin and gently card it back and forth on the screen. Okay? So what this is doing is a multitude of things. It's going to push the resin that is non-resin, i.e. the contaminant, the plant matter contaminant, which can be capitate stalks and cystolith hairs and a variety of things that are indeed appear to be glandular to the naked eye and have a very golden color. And you'll notice I'm able to card this fairly fast. Well, that's because I'm working in a very cold environment. And I can feel that it's a slow process. I can feel that there's a lot of contaminant and very few heads. But this process, what it'll do is it'll push those capitate stalks, those cystolith hairs, and any of those other non-glandular components. It'll push them through the 70 micron, 110 lines per inch screen. And what you'll end up doing, this is a process that definitely takes time. What you'll end up doing eventually is pushing so much through that the percentage of heads that you have on the top starts to really unveil the quality that you have. Once you can acquire that purity, you'll really start to unveil the quality. So, I'm not going to show you this for an hour, but this is a very slow process, the carding process. And the next tip that we're going to show you is actually the carding process improved. And so, just to see if even that worked to the slightest, let's see what we've got here. Oh yeah. Yep. Get rid of that herbs that fell through. Just to show you, just from a small amount of carding, a very small amount of carding, because this was clean before I even started, you can see that I've cleaned probably close to a half a gram to a gram of contaminant. So that is the contaminant that I pushed through on the screen. And I'll photograph it for you guys. I'm guaranteeing it's going to be an enormous amount of cystolith hairs and capitate stalks, and some heads that are smaller than 70 micron. So that's the carding process. You've seen, I hope that you guys aren't going to be disappointed that I'm not spending 20 minutes on each process. These are really simple, and what I really want to inspire in you is questions. So if you have questions about this particular video, I will make a second video, and I'll of each process specifically to reply to your questions that you have, because maybe I forgot things. I know I went over the 2-screen trick really quick, and I'll explain you. One of the things that's happening in that 2-screen trick is you have these 2-micron screens very close together with a little space in the middle, but you're using screens that are much larger than we normally use when it comes to dry sifting, and that's where the trick comes in. When you drop the material onto the screen, the heads are going to fall like rocks. They're going to go straight down like this. The contaminant is going to fall more like feathers, and what they happen to do is they stick into the secondary screen. Even though the hole is very big, and under normal situations, if you were thrashing or tumbling, everything would go straight through. In this situation, the contaminant is falling like a feather and then getting stuck in the bottom of the secondary screen. So that is why that process works. This process works because the screens are so tight on the secondary screen, the 70 micron if you can imagine. The carding is going to break up the non-glandular material, and that's why the cold is important, and that's why dry is important. Any moisture, any heat, any humidity are going to work against you in this process. So you really want to make sure you have a cold environment and really, really dry material. And then you'll see things like carding really have an effect because you're running this material over a screen back and forth, and on a microscopic level, what's happening is the small contaminant, the cystolith hairs and the capitate stalks over time are breaking up and disintegrating into smaller parts, much like the way the ocean will break down large rocks into smaller pieces and eventually into sand. So what we're going to do now for our third process, and this is the newest trick that I've come across via online and through my friends. I saw a gentleman do this some months ago now, and he was taking a DVD cover. I actually have a Wii game, Scribble Knots, one of my kids' games, and he was using parchment paper. So we will pull out a little parchment paper, and we will wrap this movie. And I guess what he was doing, what I really like, because I played around with the static a little bit myself, but one of the things I really liked about this was that, I wonder if there's going to be anything to rip this with. I don't think there is. Alright, well, let's see what we can do here. Alright, so with this parchment paper now, I guess this works on a principle of like static, but it's also working really on the principle of what I'm seeing is it's extending the size of the card that we're using to push through contaminants. And so that's one of the things that I was really interested about. I've only tried this process a few times. D420K was really excited about it the last time I talked about it. He said that it helped him clean up his carding game, tenfold. So I thought, you know what? I've got the audience. It's probably very important for me to share this because I want everyone to share to pick up their game a tenfold. I don't want people to be carding for 20 hours if they can be carding for a shorter period of time. So we wrap the DVD in parchment, and then we push it through. And you can see right off the bat, there's some heads that stuck to it. Right off the bat. A little bit of pure headies here. Alright, so definitely a very cool process. The fact that there's a little bit of head sticking to the parchment each time, and it's a very pure form of heads. I think that this is something that people could really learn to use as an advantage to their dry sifting method. We're getting that tiny little bit of pure heads stuck right to the edge of the parchment paper, and I have to say I like it. So this is one more way. This is why we have a quiver, and this is why we got to stop fighting with one another about what the best process is. When what we should really be doing is we should be discussing with one another how we can move this forward. And I'm definitely liking this large sort of movie theater sort of parchment paper movie DVD game, whatever you use. It's not too shabby at all. You can see here I've got a nice little pile right here, which is much faster than the two-screen method. It's probably get this taped probably next time. All right. So we're just working it, and you can see that what we're doing is we're not only picking up, but more importantly what we're doing is we're pushing through. We're pushing through the contaminants, and you can see that the material that has been left on this particular screen here is of a lower quality than when we started, and you can see straight up that what I've done is I've removed a much lighter head from the darker heads. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get my macro lens out, and I'm going to photograph the varieties that I did with the dry sift tech with the two screens, the 60 and the 90 LPI. Then I will show you a little bit of the contaminant that I pushed through with the carding technique, and then we're going to move right into macro photographs of this process. I want to be able to show you what I carded, what I took off the parchment paper, and even what was under the screen of the 70 microns. So I hope you guys have learned something in this quick little tutorial. I know that the real thing that will open up our minds is the macro photographs, so I'm going to go do that right away. I'm going to take a dab of that, go do the macro photographs, and I'll get back to you guys with a little sort of finish up discussing what we've done here. Okay, so I've been playing around, and I took a few macro shots. I just want to show you guys what's going on here. I got the DVD, right? Here's the three kinds from the DVD. I got in the middle 3 different kinds from carding. On the 3 piles on the white, the Connect sign are from the 2-screen Trick, the 60 and the 90 LP. And then I added these 3 on the corner here, which is a different kind of hash that I did the DVD Trick to. So we got these over here, and you can see probably out of everything, I'd have to say the nicest material was this. It was I think it was a chemo material that I had, chemo hash plant. It turned out really nice. You can really see how it pulled out an almost red-like head compared to the contaminant, which is very green and powdery. Also in the middle here, you've got a very green contaminant that came out of these 2 much lighter components. And you see it as well on the DVD. So what I'll actually do, I'll give you guys a little bit of a better show here, rather than holding it up at a weird angle. So we'll show you our DVD kinds. Boom, boom, boom. So this was, what did we have here? We had, this was our best, this was our second best, and this was our swag. And so we've got it as well here. We've got the best, second best, swag, and then we have the best, second best, swag, and then these 3 I have a hard time figuring out, because if you go closer to them, you can kind of see a golden material underneath, like it got a little hard, it got worked. So this resin could be potentially cleaned as well. So there you have it, all the different processes right there. We can show you what a raw sift looks like as well on there, just to give you that color effect. Quite dark, a little bit green, not the cleanest of sift. You can see when I go into sift like this, how you could see this come out of it. This one right here is definitely what has happened from Matt overspinning his material, which is no problem, because with the ability of cleaning it, you can't really ever overspin it. From a hash making perspective, you know, we like gentler. It's definitely the way we want to go. But if you want to make sure you get every last little bit of that resin off of your plants, I totally understand it and I support it. So I will be putting in the macro photographs both throughout as I'm talking about the resins. I'll show them right at that point, but I'll also put a little slideshow in at the end of the video so you can see all the macro photographs that we got. So thank you for watching Bubbleman's World. I hope that you guys learned something from about filling your dry sift quiver. If you guys have any tips or tricks that you've acquired on your own and you want to share them in the comments, please do so. That would be wonderful. And if you guys have any questions in regards to things that I've shown here today that wasn't clear or that you didn't quite catch on, please ask the question. I will make a point of surfing through all the trollish comments to find the valid comments and answer them for you. So right on, guys. Keep puffing that full melt 99% dry sift, and we'll see you next time.
Like I say, as I bring back this musical. Man called Jess Royal, alongside the one called Rich Spot. Oh yes, what a boss and that. Na 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 na. Herbs burner, strictly sensimilla. Oh yes, oh again. On a herbs burner, highest of the highest. Oh yeah, oh yes. You're looking at me, I say me eyes so red because if we go find up on Salaman head, people always ask me, say why you so humble. I don't smoke the cocaine, that's why I don't grumble. On a herbs burner, strictly sensimilla. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. On a herbs burner, champagne. Oh yes. So me say herb must be burned like your teeth must be cleaned. Rather vital for spiritual hygiene. A King Solomon certified the tree, and he is the wisest man known to we. So I shun propaganda they preach. Herb never harm, not a sound true speech. So meanwhile the so-called leaders deceive. Man obligated to clarify and teach. You know. Man a herbs burner. I yes I the, I yes I the, I yes I the, I yes I the, Man a herbs burner. Yeah, 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 yeah.
wanna kill me, I them purple. Just get a boom shot from a friend named Urkel. Karima say him have the highest count. Just get it from the higher mount. Pass me the sense, make me blaze up the chalwa. They say we little, yes we little, but we talawa. Give me the high grade, crack we sting you like a galawas. Herbalist, make we all of this. We man a herbs burner.
I'm the eyes and the eyes and the eye.
Again. Man a herbs burner.
Strictly kush now push. Cause when you're sipping on your rum and you a tumble down, you know see me intervene, I'da cut your fun. So me woulda really love to know how come I want a little spliff and make you move so crucial. When so many child molester till I prowl our streets, my people still paid by gunman and thief. You know see say you a squander with resources, and in turn showing off your yearly budget, but